Hello and welcome! It is Team Modern Super League time once again. I'm Randy Bueller. I'm joined by Matt Nass. Welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing good.
You are doing good. You're doing some good work. Always enjoy when you submit deck lists to me. I never know what it's going to be, and I kind of feel like you've outdone yourself. I love the way. I mean, you guys want to win. I know you guys want to win. You want to advance in the tournament. You want to win the tournament. But I feel like you'd rather lose with style than win with tier 1 decks. Is that fair?
Yeah, I think that's fair. We have kind of a rule that in order to play a deck in here, we have to play. And this is mostly for me. We have to play it in a league. So, like,
okay,
you know, if you played in a league, and it doesn't even necessarily matter your record, but if by the end of the league you feel like I shouldn't be playing this deck, I'm going to really struggle.
Okay.
Then that's one thing. So these are all decks that we think can win.
All right, awesome. Yeah, no, I know a lot of people are looking at that Twiddlestorm deck that you've got queued up, and they're like, why did you put that in round 5? It's an if necessary round. They can handicap themselves. What if they don't get to round 5?
Yeah.
I'm
not worried. I think we got pretty good matchups down the board. There's Hogak in the top 4 and Mardu Death Shadow in the top 4, which are both great decks. And so even if some of our brews fail, we should still get to round 5. If anything, I'm more concerned that we might 4-0.
Oh, geez. The 4-0 sweep the other way is how you don't get to the Twiddlestorm deck. All right. Well, look, we got to talk about these lists. I want you to explain, because some of these, I had not seen this Twiddlestorm deck before. Is that deck as sweet as it looks on paper?
Yeah, so the Twiddlestorm deck is a new deck that's made possible because of Lotus Field.
Yes, please explain it.
Yeah, so you can't really combo on turn 2 because it uses sorcery. So it's not trying to like combo off with the Lotus Field trigger on the stack. It's trying to play a Lotus Field, flop mana, sack 2 lands, and then start twiddling it.
Okay, because you can, in theory, respond to the trigger with, but only with instants, and the deck doesn't work at instant speed.
Right, it relies on Past in Flames and some things like that. So it has a lot of twiddle effects. It has Twiddle Dream Script, which is a slightly better twiddle. And then the key one is Psychic Puppetry.
Of course!
Yeah, so Psychic Puppetry is 2 mana for a twiddle, which is pretty weak, but it has Splice onto Arcane for 1. And this deck is heavy on the Arcane.
Sure.
Reach Through Mist, Peer Through Depths, and Ideas Unbound are all Arcane spells. So when you have a Psychic Puppetry in your hand and a Lotus Field in play, Reach Through Mist becomes a 1-mana ritual that also draws a card. And Ideas Unbound and Peer Through Depths each become free spells, essentially.
Nice.
And so once that's all online, it's pretty easy to go off, because once those spells are free or even netting mana, and that what are you drawing into with those? You're drawing twiddles, you're drawing cheap cantrips, and then eventually you're drawing Past in Flames.
And the interaction in this deck consists of a single engineered explosives? Is that basically the idea? 2 turns to set up, go off on turn 3, and hopefully the opponent doesn't do anything?
Yeah, you're going to kill on turn 3 or 4. Sometimes you have to transmute Teleria West to find the Lotus Field.
Okay.
And yeah, you can Merchant Scroll for Echoing Truth or draw Echoing Truth. You can Teleria West for the Engineered Explosives or draw that. You can Grape Shot some creatures maybe if you're really desperate. But it's mostly about killing people fast, especially in game 1.
Oh, fair enough. It does sound like you have decent redundancy too. Yeah, I missed the Echoing Truth, the Merchant Scroll to get it. That'll make sense. The Teleria West gives you a little bit of flexibility too.
Yeah. No, I think it's a pretty good deck. I got this list for this from a couple different places. Eli Cassis was testing it for the Mythic Championship and had a lot of input on it. And then another friend of ours also top 8 in MCQ with it and gave us a list. So I kind of tested a little bit and put those together, and that's how we landed on this.
Fair enough. And it'll be Sam piloting this one?
It's me piloting it.
Oh, it's you piloting this one. I'm looking at the casters. My bad. Yeah. You're piloting this one. That's what I thought I was going to say, and then I misread my chart.
Yeah.
The other deck you're playing tonight is built around Freed from the Real.
Yep.
I want to put that list up. You're just all about crazy ways to just go off all in one turn?
Yeah, and this one is faster. This one is turn 2 or turn 3.
Really?
So the easiest turn 3 is actually a 4, I guess if you count the second land, a 5-card hand. It's 2 lands, and then a Birds of Paradise or a Noble Hierarch, a Leyline of Abundance, and a Freed from the Real. And right there, you're going to kill on turn 2.
Wow.
So you play turn 1 Leyline. You put the Leyline in on turn 0 from your opening hand. You play a turn 1 Noble or Birds. Then you play another land. Play Freed from the Real on the mana creature, which with one of your lands and the creature itself, because the creature taps for 2. Untap it with your last land, and then it's generating a blue and a green, because Birds and Noble can tap for blue. The Leyline makes them make a green. Untaps for just the blue, so you get infinite green mana, and you can then pump that into the Leyline of Abundance to put infinite counters.
Nice. So turn 1 mana dork, turn 2 kill you. That's the plan.
Yeah, so that's kind of the nut draw, but
it's a pretty good plan.
Yeah, it's a pretty good plan, but the tricky part about this deck is figuring out what to do when you don't draw Leyline in your opening hand. You can
I was going to say, do you just have to mulligan for Leyline in this deck?
No, so there's a couple different other ways to combo. One is if you get Utopia Sprawl on Dryad Arbor.
Oh god, okay.
That'll make a blue and a green. So then you can free from the real that. And that's actually a pretty easy combo to set up for this deck, because you can fetch for the Dryad Arbor, and you have access to open the armory that can tutor for either Utopia Sprawl or Freed from the Real.
Sure, why not?
And this can also work with Arbor Elf. If you have any forest with a Utopia Sprawl on it, Arbor Elf taps for a blue and a green. So that's kind of a few different ways to circumvent the to not need the Leyline.
Okay, and then in terms of an untap effect, there's 4 Freed from the Real and then 1 Umbral Mantle?
Yeah, so when I figured out that Open the Armory was pretty appealing in this deck because of getting both Sprawl and Freed from the Real, I wanted to have some sort of tutorable win condition for when I had infinite mana but didn't have Leyline.
Got it.
So I literally did a gather search through every aura and equipment in Modern, which took quite a while.
Okay.
And there actually aren't many, because there's not many like X spells that are on equipments or auras, and in general, if there's an activated ability, it involves a tap, which is pretty inconvenient. But Umbral Mantle does get the job done. It'll make every creature you have an infinite. So usually that'll be enough. The other thing is that Umbral Mantle can be used as a win condition if you have a creature that taps for 3. If you either have 2 Leylines or a Dryad Arbor with 2 Sprawls, or an Arbor Elf when you have 2 Sprawls.
So, right, I've seen Umbral Mantle in combo decks before, because the untap, you just have a creature that tapped for enough mana that you return a profit by untapping it. That's hilarious. I assumed that was why it was in this deck, but that sounds like that's like the backup thing in this deck.
That's kind of the secondary reason that it's in the deck.
And but clearly I missed the fact it's just makes all your creatures infinitely strong.
Yes.
And is tutorable with Open the Armory. How could I have missed that?
Of course, yeah. So I think there might be John Stern played this deck at the last Mythic Championship.
Okay.
And he played it with Devoted Druid and Vizier. I think that is the better version, but I thought it was close, and this version's so much sweeter that I decided to play this.
We've seen Devoted Druid before. Devoted Druid Vizier, that's nothing.
Yeah.
Love it. But we're not done. You guys have a Core Tapper deck, too.
Yeah, so this is our last kind of crazy deck. And
tell me about the Core Tapper deck.
Yeah, so this one we also tested for the Mythic Championship. I think this one originated from a popular streamer, Cicerus.
This one I had heard about before. I think it got ran once in earlier this season, actually.
Okay.
I think. So I don't remember that being an Urza version of it, though. So I think this is the same like Astral Cornucopia Core Tapper synergy, but you tell me about this version, because I don't think I've seen it with an Urzatron before.
Yeah, normally it doesn't play Urzatron, but it's playing Karn in it, and if you're playing Karn and you're a colorless deck, I think you should be playing Urzatron. So that was one of the changes that we made to the list.
Sure.
From the original version, and basically,
so start at the beginning in case people haven't seen this before.
Yeah, so this is a deck that basically the idea is it's kind of a prison deck. It has Chalice, Ensnaring Bridge, and then Karn for all the usual hate pieces. But instead of playing like Word Prison or playing like a different Karn deck like Eldrazi-tron, you have this Mystic Forge that is like gives you crazy combo potential. It's like an Experimental Frenzy, but only for colorless cards.
Yep. Taking over Vintage, by the way.
Yeah, no, it's a powerful card for sure. And you have this Core Tapper, which works with a few different things in this deck. The biggest thing is that the Astral Cornucopia and Everflowing Chalice can be played as 0-mana artifacts to empty your hand for bridge, turn on Mox Opal, and stuff like that.
Okay.
But also can be used with Core Tapper to make crazy mana. You can tap Core Tapper to put charge counters on them, and then sack Core Tapper to put 2, and you can get really explosive draws with those. Turn 1, Everflowing Chalice, Mox Opal, Mishra's Bauble, Core Tapper my Everflowing Chalice, Chalice of the Void you, or something like that. It's like, and then you can also use Core Tapper for some of the hate artifacts. You can put a charge counter on Chalice of the Void or 2, depending on the situation. You can charge up the Blast Zone faster, and so it kind of has like some utility uses as well as being explosive.
Yeah, this is pretty different than the Core Tapper list we had before. And the idea is it doesn't go infinite or anything. It's just like eventually I will have so much mana that I can kill you with Walking Ballista.
Or Karn. 10 mana Karn.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, usually a win. Karn for life.
Convince you to scoop with Karn.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it feels like you led with it's a prison deck, and I'm like, are you burying the lead? But no, it feels like it really is prison first.
Yeah.
And then there's these crazy synergies that can do ridiculous things, but the deck doesn't depend on those.
Yeah, so you might see Sam just go Chalice and Snaring Bridge and the opponent can't do anything. Or you might see Sam go off with Mystic Forge and draw like 10 cards in one turn, essentially. So the range of outcomes is pretty wide, but...
Those are two pretty different directions for a deck to go, yeah. It will be Sam playing this deck in the first round. Sam is paired against Michael Bonda, and Bonda is on a Jund deck. Does that match up? You sound like you were happy with the matchups you got.
Yeah, I was happy for the most part. This one I think is close. I was kind of happy with this because last time we played a prison deck, we got paired against blue-white, which is the actual worst possible matchup for a prison deck. So at least we'll get a close one this time. Okay,
and then meanwhile, you guys brought, what, 2 normal decks?
Yeah, and then we have Hogak, which is just, I don't know, so good that we felt like we had to play it, and Sam loved it as well.
Okay.
So that's kind of where that one came from. And Mardu Death Shadow is what BK played at the Pro Tour over Hogak because it fits his style a little bit more, and so he wanted to run that one back. It's a little different than the list he played last time. Has Tidal Scullers. Jacob Wilson lost playing for top 8 with this list, so this definitely has some... is a solid list as well.
How did BK do with it?
I think BK did okay. I think he went 9-7 or somewhere around there.
Okay. Fair enough. Your opponents, meanwhile, issued a Hogak deck. They also, I think, like to try to win with a little bit of style. They've been sort of winding their way all the way through the entire Modern format and have just not doubled up on decks the whole season, which, hats off to them for pulling that off. So no Hogak deck on their side, and not really anything vulnerable to graveyard hate except for, I guess, a couple of Phoenixes.
Yeah, we do have a decent amount of graveyard hate in our sideboard, so that will be blanked. But
well, let's head down to the first match. It's going to be Jund against Core Tapper, and it's big picture here. This is Mage Market and ChannelFireball playing for a spot in the semifinals. Both teams went 1-1 during the regular season. You can see our screen now has stars to keep track of the overall matchup. It's best 4 out of 7 matches. And what do you think of these draws?
So Sam has a pretty explosive draw. He's on the play. I'm trying to think how you play it. So you go land, chalice, land, Everflowing Chalice, Mox Opal. Then I think you play Chalice of the Void for 0, play Core Tapper, charge up your Everflowing Chalice, and then
play Chalice 1.
Then play Chalice 1, and then you'll have enough mana to play Mystic Forge next turn. So this is actually like an insanely good stuff.
On the play, this is ridiculous. Sam seems to be so far on your line. Blast Zone, Opal, Chalice, or Everflowing Chalice. Then now that you've got your zeros down, Chalice of the Void for 0. Yeah, here's Core Tapper, power up Everflowing Chalice.
So
presumably
on the play,
he wants the Chalice 1.
Yeah, on the play, you're going to have turn 1 Chalice on Chalice of the Void for 1, which will...
interesting.
Go for it. Oh, no.
Wow. He's going to get thought seized.
Yeah, this is going to be so bad. I guess the theory is that Chalice 2 is better against Jund, maybe?
I mean, we do see 2 copies of Ren and 6, but that thought seize is... I guess he can't take both the Chalice and the Mystic Forge. Sam is going to get to do one of those 2 things next turn.
Yeah, I feel like he would have loved to do both, though. Now do you bolt the core tapper or thought seize? It's not
interesting.
super clear cut. If Bonda goes for bolting the core tapper, it will be pretty regrettable for him, I think. But
the thing that Sam's line lets him do is he can get a chalice on 1 and a chalice on 2, right?
yeah, maybe that was the goal. Go for the like hard lock.
And then you see the core tapper gets bolted, so Sam actually kept all his stuff. Yeah, I think core tapper tap the core tapper to turn chalice 0 into chalice 1, then play chalice 2. Sounds like a pretty good line.
Chalice 1, chalice 2 is just so good against Shund. So that was cast. That Mishra's Bubble was cast off the Mystic Forge. That's why Sam cast it into Chalice.
I was going to say Sam didn't. Makes sense. Now the Thought Seize is going to get the Chalice, but that Mystic Forge feels like a lot of card advantage here. I don't know that Renin 6 can keep up with Mystic Forge, right?
Yeah, I would guess that Sam's in a pretty good spot here. He also has the Expedition map. Mystic Forge combo can use map as a free shuffle effect here. Oh, and he hit a core tapper off the top with the Mystic Forge. That is clutch.
More
curious if he'll sack core tapper to turn the chalice on 2.
Well, he just had to play a couple zeros into his chalice 0 just to get him off the top with that Mystic Forge.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't really cost you much. It's also interesting he chose not to tap Mystic Forge. You can pay a life to exile the top card, so he must like what he sees on top. Oh, this is interesting. Do you set Chalice to 2, or Chalice of the Void to 2, or Everflowing Chalice to 4?
Chalice to 2 is apparently the decision.
Yeah, I guess the theory is that Sam has enough mana here. This will also unlock, now when he plays zeros off the top, they'll actually come into play, which is kind of nice.
Right.
And this Everflowing Chalice is castable.
It's the second time in a row where Sam had the option to sack core tapper right away, but chose to try to have Summoning Sickness wear off, right? Chose to try to get it to his next turn.
Yeah, and he kind of got punished both times, but
agreed.
But it doesn't.
It's clearly a thing he values, though.
Like, yeah, doesn't necessarily mean it was the wrong play.
All right, Urza's Mind is exiled via the Mystic Forge. Now what's on top? More mana.
So the next question is, what sort of a lock is Sam going to try and set up?
You can't chalice 1.
Oh,
yeah, that doesn't work.
Sam forgot about that one.
Yeah, the other times he was playing those zeros into his chalice on purpose. That one felt like an accident.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it wasn't, because maybe he wanted to get chalice off the deck and he didn't want a chalice 0 in play. So that may have actually been intentional.
Oh, hilarious. Chalice 0 in play is at this point just bad for him?
Yeah, definitely
funny.
Bad.
Okay. We'll give him credit. Yeah. I'm sure that'll be his story once we get around to asking him, right?
No, Sam's played this deck a lot. I would guess that actually. I have faith in my teammate.
Oh, we do get to see the top of this library. Sweet. Of course, as soon as we get the top of the library display turned on, Inventor's Fair picks up the deck and starts shuffling. What does he want with Inventor's Fair?
I'm trying to figure it out. He wants to try it. I think Karn is the card he wants the most, which he of course can't find. He might want Ballista. Yeah, Ballista to answer Renin 6.
Okay.
I guess Blaststone can also answer Renin 6, so but Ballista just seems good with the amount of mana that Sam has, right?
Sure. Cornucopia on top. This deck looks great.
Yeah, I think it's pretty solid. We were not that far off from considering it the Pro Tour. If Hogak hadn't been so good, I think we might have considered it a little bit more. It's definitely the real deal. Karn also is just such a busted card that if you can come up with a Karn deck that is somewhat playable, you know, like that's pretty powerful. And now Sam's just going to Ballista 2 turns in a row for roughly $1 million. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10, 12. I think it's 6/6 Ballistas coming in.
I don't feel like Raging Ravine beats that.
No, I don't either. Oh, well, now Raging Ravine might not even be able to attack, although I'm not sure if Sam will bother.
Right, spend his mana on an even bigger Ballista.
That was a little weird. Sam left 2 mana up. Did he miscount there, maybe?
Bloodbraid Elf off the top for Bonda.
And he's going to use his Renin 6 before casting Bloodbraid in case Bloodbraid hits a removal spell and forces Sam to kill the Renin 6. Oh.
Makes sense. Hits a Scavenging Ooze.
Oh, no, he's not. He was just fetching to thin his deck.
Scavenging Ooze is countered by the Chalice. And Bloodbraid Elf looks across at 5/5 Ballista and says, no thanks, never mind. More Ballistas.
Yeah, and there's only 3 in here, so that is
all of the Ballistas.
Is this lethal? 5 puts him to 8, and there's 9.
He gets to attack.
Lethal. Wow, what a game from Sam.
Clears a path, gets in 1 hit, and then Ballista counters off the top. So Sam Pardee takes game 1. That looked easy.
It did.
And he even got punished for saying go with summoning sick Core Tapper twice.
Yeah,
like he played it slow, and it still looked that ridiculous.
Yeah, agreed. The one thing I will say is Sam's playing Karn, so he won't have as many sideboard options. But Karn Scion of Urza might actually be pretty good here because the games are going to be a little grindier.
Right. What does this Jund deck have that's relevant?
The Jund deck has extra removal. There's at least 1 Ancient Grudge in there.
Those oofies have to be good, right? Or are they oofs?
Yeah, Collector
Oof. I think Mike Turian convinced me to say oofy 20 years ago, and I've just never fixed it.
Yeah.
I think I'm pretty sure. Look, if I'm saying it the way Mike Turian said it, I'm almost certainly wrong.
That's fair. Yeah, it's interesting.
In any case, they seem good in this matchup.
Yes, for sure. Sam definitely, if he doesn't have Tron, he'll be pretty reliant on the mana artifacts. So, yeah, boarding in a little bit of Karn.
Oh, he's also a Tron deck, right?
Yes, we didn't even see
any
Tron.
of that.
Yeah, he milled over a power plant, but that was about it.
Yeah, cool deck for sure. Let's see what happens in game 2. Bonda has he's got 2 land this time. Last time he mulliganed a 1 land to start. This 2 land, this has no 1-drop though.
This has no 1-drop, and it's just kind of like a pile of fair cards. And
right. It's a fetch land for a turn 2 Renin 6. That's I guess Renin 6 into Tireless Tracker doesn't suck.
Yeah, I think that wouldn't suck in some matchups. I'm just not sure that's the type of hand that's going to beat Sam's deck.
It is kind of on the fair side of Modern Magic. And
Sam has Urzatron this time.
Interesting. No payoff yet, or does he have the Inventor's Fair turned on?
He has the Inventor's Fair, and he will have 3 artifacts even after cracking map. Not sure what he'll be able to get with that. It might just be a Ballista again. Might be.
Oh, right. He can't get his Karn.
Yeah, Karn is a card you want when you have Tron and you can't tutor for it, so you just have to hope to draw it.
Yeah, Bonda did in fact keep this opener. Turn 2 Renin 6, get back a fetch land. The Renin 6s are also doing kind of a good job of keeping Core Tapper at bay.
Yeah, I think Sam's going to play Chalice and instantly sack Core Tapper since he knows it's dead to Renin 6 anyway.
Right.
And then he'll even be able to drop the map. I guess he might as well make Bonda do it, but his plan is to Core Tapper sack on Everflowing Chalice. And
right. And then he can use that mana to activate the map. There is the Renin 6 activation that he was waiting for.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any world where Bonda could have plussed the Renin 6 and kind of dared Sam not to use Core Tapper, since he really wanted to crack map end of turn. Right. It's pretty gutsy, though.
I mean, you get an extra counter on Chalice out of it, so I don't feel like I think Sam just takes him up on it, right? Goes to his main phase.
Agreed. So Sam actually can't crack map now, or doesn't want to, because he only has 3 artifacts in play.
So it'll turn off his Inventor's Fair, sure.
Yeah.
Ursatron, but nothing to do with it.
Yeah, so if he goes Fair next turn, he can Fair and then have 6 additional mana available. Ballista for 3 isn't all that special, though. So there might be another turn of Sam passing after this one.
Karmic always chips away.
Blast Zone seems like the land that Sam really wants to get with map. I wonder if Sam was even considering delaying Tron and just tutoring for Blast Zone and playing it there.
Interesting. Yeah, Blast Zone on 2 does some good work on this board. Tireless Tracker, though, is going to start... I mean, sure, this is fair, but we're all of a sudden in this kind of grindy game. Does Tireless Tracker have time to win this game for Bonda?
So Sam's going to drop Ensnaring Bridge, and then what can he Fair for? He can Fair... I mean, he can Fair for Ballista and try to use Ballista to take down the Tracker. He can Fair... I'm guessing he doesn't have like any Spyglass type things in his deck, because otherwise I think you can Spyglass Clue, I believe, or does it have to be a card that actually exists in Magic? You might not be able to. I think you can't.
It's name a card name, right?
Yeah, I believe you can't Spyglass Clue, so we'd have to find a different answer there. I'm guessing Ballista is the most likely find.
Well, Sam's gonna wait for the end of Michael's turn.
Mystic Forge is also possible. Maybe Sam will just try to draw a million
there
cards.
We go.
Forge. So
that sounds better than the other stuff you've been saying.
Yeah, I think Mystic Forge over Ballista is probably better.
He does now have Bridge, so he's bought himself some nice time. Yeah, Bloodbraid comes down, but all Bloodbraid really gets is this Thoughtseize, which is going to whiff.
Yeah.
Nothing is attacking. Feels like we're going to be here for a while.
Yeah. I think Sam's favored here, just because the Forge is a more powerful draw engine than Tireless Tracker. Red and 6 Ultimate could be a concern. Lightning Bolt with Retrace could be pretty obnoxious. But that's still a bit of a ways away.
All right. Sacks the Inventor's Fair. Does also have Expedition Map that he can sack at some point.
Yeah, I think I'm kind of interested. Does he get Blast Zone, or does he just get Urza's Tower and try to kind of maximize how powerful this Mystic Forge can be? He also might delay the map here, not crack end of turn to get an extra shuffle effect.
Oh, with the Mystic Forge, sure. Yeah, he's actually paused during Michael Bonda's end step, so that's got to be what he's thinking about.
Yeah, it definitely is.
And he took you up. Oh, Karn off the top. New plan.
That's just game over, because
new plan.
Karn Lattice, and Karn Lattice with Bridge out is completely unbeatable. Bonda will most likely
Karn, Mycosynth Lattice had the 6. Yeah. Bonda's out here is that Sam somehow gets enough cards stuck in his hand to turn the Bridge off. That's not happening.
There's nothing he can't play. Yeah, I mean, he has a million mana.
So, match 1 goes to ChannelFireball. Not bad.
Yeah.
You guys showed up with 3 brews. The first brew puts the first W on the board.
Yeah, we'll take it.
Awesome. Give me a quick summary of your match. You're about to play Freed from the Real against Andreas Peterson's Eldrazi-tron. What should we be looking for?
So Freed from the Real is really fast. Andreas is going to have to mulligan a lot, is the big thing you should be looking for, because Eldrazi-tron doesn't have much removal in it, and it doesn't even sideboard much removal because the sideboard is filled up with a Karn sideboard. So he's just going to have to mulligan until he finds Ballista, or I think he has some small number of Dismember, and he's just going to have to keep mulliganing for those. But if he has a hand with pressure, or like Chalice plus some removal or something like that, then it could be bad for me. But overall, I think it's one of the best matchups of the big modern decks for Freed from the Real.
All right, don't go anywhere. We are just getting started. CFB Brews 1, Mage Market 0. We'll see what happens in round 2.
CoolStuffInc.com is your home for everything Magic the Gathering. Need singles for constructed or kitchen table play? Looking to pick up some sealed product or the latest in Magic accessories? We've got you covered with our extensive live inventory. With free shipping on orders of $100 or more, a 25% buy list bonus, and our ever-popular customer rewards program, CoolStuffInc.com is the place for all your Magic the Gathering needs.
Hello and welcome back to the Team Modern Super League. I'm Sam Pardee, joined by Michael Bondi. Hey, Michael.
Hi, Sam.
That was quite a game.
That was quite a game. Yeah. I don't know if I'm super excited about the outcome of that game, though.
Yeah, the Mystic Forge is just so powerful against Jund. It gives you so many extra resources.
Yeah. I was really I was trying to hold up Bolt, and I was doing a great job on turn 3, but then I fetched the Stomping Ground, so I ran out of resources. I wanted to bolt your Karn when you played it.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
But then I accidentally fetched all my resources, and then I had to play the tap land and just hope that you didn't draw it, and then you drew it. So yeah. I was kind of nagging myself afterwards, why?
Yeah, my plan was to just go for the Mystic Forge, play it, and then, see where the turn took me from there. Hopefully, get a Chalice on 2 to shut off Ancient Grudge, maybe, or something like that. Try to keep my bridge safe.
Yeah.
But obviously, Karn was just the best possible draw.
Yeah. But who came up with the deck? It seems like it's somewhat innovative compared to other archetypes in that direction.
Yeah, so we tested this deck for the last Mythic Championship. Basically, we played a lot of Eldrazi Tron, and we're like, wow, this deck's really good when it goes turn 3 Tron and Karn.
Yeah.
And we kind of thought the Eldrazi were terrible. They're a fine plan B, but they're not really what you want to be doing in this format, it felt like.
Yeah.
So we were just trying to find other things you could do to include Tron plus Karn in your deck.
Yeah.
And we remembered we watch Susurus's stream sometimes. He's the guy who he's like he kind of made the War Prison deck, and we remembered a list he played with that was like this Core Tapper deck. He didn't have Tron in his list, so we cut some of the other lands and just put Tron in. And I think one of the big things that the deck also has going for it is it gets to play 4 Blast Zones, which is just an incredibly powerful card. Like I was pretty excited to play against Jund, where I just have 4, I can just set them to 2, and it kills almost all of your threats.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it has a lot of angles to attack both the hate that your opponent can bring to the table, but also just a very synergistic and straightforward plan where Mystic Forge just goes crazy. It's a nice deck, and and I enjoy that you're playing it, even though I got completely bashed.
Yeah, I mean, I considered playing it at the Mythic Championship. I played like 2 or 3 leagues with it and did pretty well. The problems that I ended up having with it were that the burn matchup felt really, really bad. Like there wasn't a lot it felt like you could do other than, you try to set up Chalice for 1 and 2, but then they also have a lot of 3s now with Skewer the Critics and Rift Bolt, so they can still kill you. And also the blue-white control matchup is just completely hopeless. Cryptic Command just ruins your day.
Yeah, I could imagine. I played War Prison myself, and that's a horrendous matchup against the blue-white as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess we're gonna see some really nice deck in action here as well.
Yeah, this one was Matt Nass's baby. He played this a ton in Pro Tour testing and a bunch of different versions of it. He was really, really excited. Like the Leyline thing is super powerful. The reason we ended up scrapping this deck for the Pro Tour or for the Mythic Championship was because it felt like with open deck lists, if your opponent knew that they needed removal and interaction early, that made your deck significantly worse. And it was a little bit weak to some of the like interaction heavy decks like Jund and Phoenix. But luckily he didn't draw that pairing. He's playing against Eldrazi Tron, which has a lot less interaction, although the version that Matt ended up going with is a little different from what John Stern ended up registering for the Pro Tour, which had more 2s, so he's a little weaker to Chalice of the Void. So that is probably looking to be a highly impactful card in this matchup.
Can you try and just tell what's up with the 1 on Thin Ice? I simply just couldn't figure out why that card is in there. Is it just a removal spell, or does it have any?
Yeah, it's just a removal spell that you can search for with Open the Armory.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful when it works, so it seemed reasonable to try. The version that John Stern played was not an Open the Armory deck, so he actually played an alternate version we had worked on for this, which was Devoted Druid and Vizier, sort of in the Open the Armory on Thin Ice slots. Which gives you another different angle of attack, another way to make infinite mana, and then you can use that infinite mana on Karn or Leyline of Abundance. The problem with that version is that Devoted Druid doesn't really do very much by itself.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. I really like the deck. I'm like looking to the side because I have the deck list over here. So it has a lot of great cards, but also like cards that you don't see that often. Like I think I saw something on what's it called, horse crap or something at some point in the history of the game with Freed from Reality, Freed from the Real.
Yeah, that Freed from the Real is a really strange card. It also is kind of a removal spell if you need it to be. You can put it on their stuff and then tap it. It's a pretty bizarre one.
So can I just ask about the 4 Teferi Time Reveler? So when you put 4 of card in a sideboard, you kind of want it to be like it's good against something. So how come you're playing 4 Teferi Time Reveler in the sideboard?
Yeah, so those are mostly to stop the interaction heavy decks. It's really good against like Thing in the Ice and out of the Phoenix deck. You bounce their Thing in the Ice, then you have a relatively safe window to like, if you know that if your mana creature lives through the turn, you have a safe window to go for your kill. One of the lines that came up pretty often against blue-white control was if you could stick a Teferi, and which you often could because you play like turn 1 Bird or Noble and then turn 2 Teferi. Then you go end of turn, you just have a fetch land in play, fetch up a Dryad Arbor, put the Utopia Sprawl on it, freed from the real it, and that's infinite mana.
Yeah.
Okay, and
seems
it
pretty
sounds
nice.
like they're ready to go. So let's head down to the match.
Let's do it.
All right.
The match here.
So what's Matt got? That hand looks probably like a mulligan to me. It doesn't have a ley line. Oh, no. I think Matt's gonna mull that. Yeah. Okay. He sent it back. This one looks keepable. He has Utopia Sprawl, and then Open the Armory goes and gets can go and get Freed from the Real, which is infinite mana with Arbor Elf.
Yeah.
So that's probably what he's gonna do. Looks like
And then
Andreas is on the play.
Andreas has a medium hand, I think. He can play out Matter Reshaper, which isn't really that great in this matchup, but then he's gonna be able to get an additional Eldrazi Temple and make Reality Smash alive for turn 3 to try and pressure, and then All is Dust for like 4 or 5.
Yeah, All is Dust seems like the card that Matt is gonna have to be most worried about here. Oh,
Yeah.
this is surprising. I was expecting for Matt to go for a Utopia Sprawl, but I guess because of the Ghost Quarter, he's a little scared to do that.
Yeah. So just deploying a lot of minor threats on the board. So I guess Andreas can, if he doesn't want to go for like the Eldrazi Smasher or the Reality Smasher, he can go for Blast Zone here and try and pick out all 3.
Right, but that costs 3 to activate, right? So it'll be a little slow, but that could be pretty potent. If he taps out here, I think Matt actually can make infinite mana, but won't have anything to do with it. Because I think what he can do is sprawl the Temple Garden, and then untap it, get Open the Armory. Oh, actually no, he will be able to have a kill because he can double sprawl, then go get instead of Freed from the Real, he can pick up the Umbral Mantle, and that will make infinite mana on an Arbor Elf, and he could actually kill from there. Yeah. But if the Ghost Quarter stays untapped, he can't go for that.
Yeah, so I think Andreas is gonna play like Gemstone Caverns here, and then tap for a Matter Reshaper.
Right, leaving up the Ghost Quarter presumably.
Yes, but I'm unsure. Like we didn't get to talk much about this, but Andreas is a pretty good deck builder, and he's kind of into like all of the fringe decks of the format. So I hope that he knows all the sweet small interactions that Freed from Reality has. Yeah, so he isn't playing anything here. He's trying to like be safe.
Yeah. So do you think Matt's just gonna go for it anyway to force the action on this Ghost Quarter? Because that does keep Andreas off of getting to use the Blast Zone next turn, which is a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess with the hand that Mass is having right now, it's kind of he can't really not do anything and just let Andreas evolve his board and just like stay behind. So I guess Matt has to force some action from Andreas's hand here.
Yeah, it seems that way. And so if Matt goes for the sprawl, is Andreas supposed? Oh, he's okay. He's just gonna go for open. Not sure about this. What's he gonna get?
Maybe he's gonna set up a. So he is getting the card that you're saying, but maybe just for later.
So he's gonna get Umbral Mantle. He's not even gonna play it. So he's just gonna leave the Heath uncracked. So he's gonna lose all of his stuff to. Oh, okay. So I guess what he's trying to set up here is end of turn after the Blast Zone gets cracked, fetch for Dryad Arbor. Then if he rips a land, he can put 2 Utopia Sprawls on it, play Umbral Mantle, but that doesn't really get him anywhere because he still doesn't have. Oh wow, Freed from the Real. Okay, but that's still not good enough. I don't see how Matt has a way out of this. I think he needed to play a sprawl last turn to try to force some action there.
But isn't it like next turn? Isn't it like infinite mana? If he plays a but then Andreas has a Ghost Quarter up.
Right, once the Ghost Quarter untaps, that's why I think Matt needed to just bite the bullet and waste the sprawl. Oh wow, and Walking Ballista can just clean up all of Matt's permanents.
Yeah, this was a pretty good draw from Andreas.
Yeah, that was pretty solid.
Firing off the Blast Zone, like I wouldn't say preemptively, but in his own turn, just to like get out of Karn's way, and then drawing a Walking Ballista was really. If he knew that card was on top, then the Blast Zone was an even better play than what.
Yeah. So he got a 3-for-1 with Blast Zone and a 2-for-1 with Walking Ballista. So that's gonna be pretty tough for Matt to come back from.
Yeah, and now Fodatsir with a Ghost Quarter open here.
Yep. Yeah, this is looking pretty grim.
So I guess you're playing 4 freed from the real. Let's see. It's here the list. Freed from the real. But you're only playing one of the artifacts, right?
Yeah, there's only one Umbral Mantle.
Yeah.
But I don't really see how Matt can dig his way out of this. Like I guess he's gonna get on thin ice here. Oh, he's just picking up another Freed from the real. Okay. But as long as that Ghost Quarter remains untapped, which I think it will, although maybe now there's free reign to drop the Smasher exactly this turn. As long as Matt doesn't ever get to untap with a creature, there's really nothing he can do that is meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah, like so he can play Sylvan Caryatid here and chump block, but that's not going to really advance him anywhere.
No. So Andreas takes first game.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm a bit on thin ice myself here because there's so many things going on with trying to wrap my head around it. But I was just like, okay, it's an infinite combo deck. It has like these different ways of infinite combo, but there are so many lines and so many small interactions that you need to be aware of like every single time. So
yeah,
let's see what
very bizarre deck.
But it is a little bit easier to sideboard with when the normal decks due to having Karn and the toolbox in the sideboard. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, definitely. So, looks like Andreas is bringing in the Forge, a Walking Ballista, and 2 Spatial Contortions. So not doing too much to disrupt his package of Karn targets.
Yeah.
You maybe sometimes you would want to get Walking Ballista, but a lot of the time where you would, Spyglass is going to do the same thing because it can still name Arbor Elf. And I didn't actually catch how Matt sideboarded. Did you see?
No, I didn't. But I think it's kind of interesting. He's taking out the chalices because he's on the draw. And if Matt sticks like one of the elves on turn 1, then or the Utopia's Brawl, then Chalice kind of isn't really that good of a card because it doesn't really interact with the infinite combo.
Right. It does. Yeah, it doesn't actually stop you from losing to that. So Matt's got a nice double leyline hand here, but nothing to go with it. Although, one of the things with leyline is it is a mana sink unto itself. Matt can just play both of these mana creatures, then use the other fetch to get a Dryad Arbor, which will also tap for 3 mana, and then you'll have enough mana to just activate leyline every turn. And a Gavany Township activation every turn can actually outpace some of the stuff that's going on if Andreas has a slower draw, which it looks like he does.
Yes. He does have a Spatial Contortion though. So
right, so he'll be able to remove the bird on turn 2. But Matt can still fetch Dryad Arbor, and then you'll have 3 mana from the Noble, 3 mana from the Dryad Arbor, and then 2 mana from his 2 lands that he has left over. So that's still enough to activate.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's actually pretty impressive with the 2 ley lines here.
All his dust is extremely threatening here. Blows up all the ley lines and all the birds. So Matt's gonna have to hope to dodge that 3rd Tron piece.
So yeah, yeah. So just relying on drawing the Tron piece, Tron activated, as Marine Lebert would say.
Also worth noting, if Matt draws Karn here, he would actually have access to 10 mana, so he could just immediately go get the lattice and end the game. But now Andreas is killing the noble during his upkeep, which is better against Karn, but much worse if Matt draws Freed from the Real. So now Matt has that as an out to win. These trade-offs.
Yeah. So let's see. So is he gonna play the leyline here?
Looks like he is. So that means he must be planning to fetch another Dryad Arbor with his next next fetch.
And then just go berserk.
Yep.
So
there's Matter Reshaper, which is actually going to do a good job holding the fort, perhaps.
Yeah, so the question is here if Andreas plays Ghost Quarter or the Eldrazi Temple. I like going with Eldrazi Temple, but if you're relying on drawing the Tron piece anyways, then I can see having the Ghost Quarter on the board as a nice thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you're gonna have to tap out regardless, so I think it makes sense to play the temple this turn.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh, and there's Karn. Wow, what a draw.
So that's a game over, I presume.
I'm not actually sure that it is, right? Because Matt can go get. He can go. If he gets the lattice, then the Matter Reshaper can just attack and kill Karn. So he has to probably go get liquid metal coating and coat the tower this turn, and that leaves him with a blocker still available. So he can chump the Matter Reshaper and then go get the lattice.
But then I guess
seems like it'll work out.
Yeah, so then we're relying on, I'm saying we, which is my team, Sam, on drawing either the last Tron piece or an additional Eldrazi Temple to get the Smasher on the board and just get rid of the pesky Karn.
Yeah, if the Smasher can come down, that would be huge. Oh, okay, so Matt just decided to go with Bridge instead, which I guess is a little safer. I guess actually Bridge is really good here as long as All Is Dust doesn't happen this turn, because only Blast Zone can remove it.
Yeah, so I guess Andreas here kind of has to like kill the Dryad Arbor and then also dismember the other Dryad Arbor just to get out of range of.
That'll still leave Matt with exactly 6 mana though, right? He can go minus Karn for lat because he gets to get a land off of the Ghost Quarter.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Still go pick up the lattice and finish the job.
Not cool, man.
He'll have 1 card left in hand, which won't allow any attacks. Walking Ballista is not an out because Karn stops it from activating.
Yeah.
So I think that should be game for Matt.
Andreas
I think Ensnaring Bridge was a smart pickup for Matt there.
I agree. It plays around like almost all the cards that Andreas can have, like in his hand.
All Is Dust would still be pretty bad news for him. So if the Tron piece had come off the top, that would have still been pretty rough.
Yeah.
But I don't know that there was something he could have gotten that would be much better.
So let's see if Matt finds the play here.
I think Matt will figure it out.
Oh, no.
One of the funny scenarios that comes up with this deck sometimes is if both players have Karn, usually the thing you do is you count your library and you're like, okay, well, whoever has more cards in their library is going to win. But with this deck, it's actually very funny because you can play Dryad Arbor even when a lattice is in play. You can still win the scenarios where both players have a lattice.
Oh, that's pretty
or
neat.
Both players are locked under Karn.
So
that actually came up for John Stern at the Pro Tour, where his opponent was, they both had nothing in play. They both had Karn, and they're like, okay, you're dead. You have fewer cards in your deck than me. And he's like, actually,
and
no.
he was like, oh, hold on.
Yeah, actually, I can just draw Dryad Arbor and attack your card.
That's nice. Oh, let's see how Matt boarded here.
So he brought in all the Teferis, Knight of Autumn, looks like, and he just has 65 cards in his deck. I don't know if that's how he boarded for this round, but okay, it looks like he's cutting the Open the Armory package, perhaps. I think that makes sense because I think trying to play a long game here is actually really, really bad for Matt.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, like he just gets locked out by Chalice, and All Is Dust is a nightmare, and opposing Karns are really tough. So I think he just wants to go as quick as possible.
But it seems like it's also a solid plan.
Oh, he's
deliberating if it's the devastation.
Yeah, I think once you have Knight of Autumn, which is like kind of a high impact card to go get, the finales actually are pretty good.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. So we're down to game 3. If you should get 1 star, or if we should get 1 star, or you should have 2 stars after the match.
I know which I would prefer.
Yeah, that we had 1 star. So
yeah, I'd like to play 7 matches. That sounds fun.
Yeah, I agree. So Andreas kept a double Eldrazi Temple with 2 removal spells and Thoughtless here. I think this is somewhat. It's close enough to what you actually just want every game.
Yeah, this
especially
looks
against a creature
ideal
deck.
to me.
Yeah.
And so
he
yeah, he's gonna
isn't.
get to go Dismember into Thought Knot.
Yeah. I think this is a pretty heads up play since Matt plays 12 1-mana creatures just to keep up the Dismember, since Matt's plan is revolving around the creatures.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Getting the Expedition map into play probably isn't actually that valuable because his mana is spoken for on turn 2 anyway. He's
Yeah,
gonna
so
cast the Thought-Knot Seer, so it doesn't
and
matter.
then turn 3 you can play the map and have the Spatial Contortion up, or just crack it end of turn if you don't have a target.
Right. So yeah, so Matt's bird is probably going to get distortioned on his next turn.
Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll see depending on what this Thought Knot takes. I kind of in my head had thought it was just a lock to take Teferi, but maybe not. Maybe you want to take the finale and then you can kill the bird and that leaves Matt with no creatures. And
Yeah, but then
Thought
you
Knot Seer is
draw.
not that exciting.
Yeah, but then you. Yeah, he took the finale. Then you're a little bit soft to like Matt playing the Teferi and bouncing the creature.
Yeah, I mean, you will probably get to Thought Knot Seer or whatever Matt finds off of the Thought Knot draw. You'll get
Yeah.
you'll get another crack at it, so it's not that bad. And it looks like Matt, I assume, is just gonna play Bird and pass here, like Bird, Windswept Heath pass to
Yeah.
preserve being able to fetch a Dryad Arbor and put Sprawl on it, and then maybe go off with Freed from the Real at a later time.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. So a good draw here would be the Reality Smasher, just to put some pressure on the, or Matter Reshaper.
Yeah, Reshaper's okay. Yeah, I think you're right. I think Smasher would have been the ideal draw. Maybe Ballista also. Those
Yeah.
seem like the things you most want to see.
But I guess right now I think Andreas needs to play the Reality Smasher and dump the Expedition map and not keep the Spatial Contortion up.
Yeah, you think it's fine to just be shields down for a turn. It would give Matt an opportunity to land Leyline, maybe.
Yeah. The thing is, oh, he just says go. Okay, it's just because then Andreas is gonna play the Teferi here, and the Teferi is just gonna bounce the Thought-Knot Seer, and then we have to like tap out one turn anyways. To oh, there's a Karn. Okay.
Right. So what does Matt do here? He probably Utopia sprawls something, and then plays Teferi because that way he has Karn mana next turn.
Yeah.
That seems pretty potent. Although I guess the Karn's probably going to get taken out of his hand anyway, so it's not that big a deal.
But he must be thinking about like, so if Andreas goes for a Ghost Quarter, is the Utopia Sprawl then important this turn, or the turn that I go off where Andreas is tapped out?
Oh right, yeah, I forgot he has them. He could just map for Ghost Quarter.
Yeah.
But
It's not like the best, but it's still it must be some of his like why he's thinking here.
yeah, if he spends the turn map, maybe what Matt's like, what my thought process would be is if he spends the turn mapping for Ghost Quarter and using it, that's not replaying the Thought Knot, so then I can likely get the Karn into play anyway.
Yeah.
Because he will get to draw a card off the Teferi bounce and a card from the Thought Knot Seer leaving play and a card for his next turn. So he's
Yeah.
pretty likely to find a fourth land then. So I think that's what I like the best, but
Yeah.
we'll see how Matt feels about it.
Would you do it on the Dried Opera then, leaving it up to a removal spell?
I think I would not. I think I would put it on. I might just fetch a basic forest and put it there. I'm not sure. Maybe fetch Temple Garden.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. It's really tough to figure out. These are sort of like really small decisions that could end up mattering a lot, right?
Yeah. The stupid fetch, like fetch all your red sources so you can bolt a Karn.
Yeah, it's one of those things where that Modern really emphasizes, I think, that I actually love about the format.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's declining to play the Sprawl.
Yeah. And just
Saving it
bouncing
for
the
later.
Thought-Knot Seer. Getting a so that is infinite mana, right? If he gets to
It is infinite mana if Matt gets to untap with everything, but obviously the Thought Knot is going to come back down and presumably stop that from happening. Although it's going to be tough because Karn is going to be really good here too. So, Andreas is a bit in the squeeze.
Yeah.
If Matt gets to play Karn and go get like Ensnaring Bridge, that's a pretty big game.
Yes, but if he gets Ensnaring Bridge, let's see. So he plays the land, he goes down to, yeah. So he goes down to 4, and he goes up to 5. He plays land, Karn, Utopia Sprawl. Yeah, so he takes the Freed from Real just to.
Yeah, I think he has to there because otherwise he's dead. If he takes the Karn, Matt can just kill him. So
yeah, but I think this is not a good situation because he's gonna dump all his cards so that he'll have 2 cards left. He will have the Devastation and the Leyline, so we can't attack with the Thought-Knot Seers.
Right. And well, he can't play the bridge this turn. He could just pick it up.
Oh yeah.
So he's gonna presumably lose Karn to Thought-Knot Seer.
Yeah.
And actually be dead to Reality Smasher off the top. And
I'm
I
always
guess
I'm always just like they play Karn and then an artifact will come into play. So, but that's not what happens all the time.
Right. And I guess one other thing that could happen here is Andreas can map for Blast Zone, although he has to do so with the Karn on the stack. That's something he has to remember, which is very easy to forget because you think of Karn as this combo piece that only really works with Lattice, but it actually has another ability that happens all the time while it's in play.
So let's see how up to date Andreas is if Karn enters the battlefield here.
Oh, interesting. Karn is not even going to enter the battlefield. He's just going to play a Leyline. What does that do?
It puts Matt in a situation where Karn isn't just going to die, and then he can snipe with an Ensnaring Bridge, I guess.
Yeah, he only has 6 mana though, right? He has 2 from the Arbor, 2 from the land with the Sprawl, and then 2 from his other sources. And Andreas could go get Blast Zone or Ghost Quarter to give him even less mana. So I don't totally understand this play from Matt. I don't know exactly what the Leyline's doing for him here.
But I guess if he draws a land here, he can play Karn and Ensnaring Bridge, which kind of like leaves Walking Ballista not an option, and leaves Reality Smasher and attacking with Thought-Knot Seer. So I think Ensnaring Bridge is like kind of a what's called like it's a way of like postponing the game, having both Planeswalkers on the board. So I kind of like not just throwing the Karn away here when the hand isn't really that strong.
Yeah, that does make some sense. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And Andreas has a really tough choice here of what to go get with map, right? Like, what do you think? Is it Blast Zone? Is it Ghost Quarter? Is it another Eldrazi Temple so you could cast all his dust? I guess you can cast all his dust no matter what. So
I think he's gonna go with a Ghost Quarter here.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. It's functionally the cheapest to use, and does about the same as Blast Zone.
Yeah, because I think we have enough to cast all this dust with their 7 mana with the Ghost Quarter. So if you draw all this dust, then it's like then you reset the game, and then we're like super ahead. So and you don't really want to dig for Tron piece because you don't really need it at this point.
Yeah, he doesn't have a ton to do with Tron mana. So yep, there you go. Ghost Quarter. Oh wow, Endbringer's a great draw. You can play Endbringer and use Ghost Quarter this turn. Use all your mana. That's really, really powerful.
Yeah. So let's see if he attacks for. Okay, so he kills the Teferi. There was also a play of attacking the life total here because Teferi doesn't really do much.
Yeah, I guess with Endbringer, Andreas probably feels like even if the game goes a little bit longer, he's very likely to win.
Yeah, I agree. So Andreas is like is setting up a scenario where if he gets to untap with Endbringer, it's game over from because if not, then like attacking Matt will go down to 5, and then an additional attack with both creatures will put him down to 1, and then he can ping with the Endbringer in the upkeep. So now he's looking at the deck list. It looks like so.
Yeah, so he went to go see what Matt could get with Karn, I assume.
Yeah. So if he should, I think he should just Ghost Quarter. Like we know what Matt has in his hand, so I think just Ghost Quartering is a fine play here. Yeah.
Yeah, the one virtue I think to not Ghost Quartering is if Matt draws exactly his one on Thin Ice. It would be good to be able to remove the land that
I
was
agree.
on.
I agree.
But no such luck for Matt, so he's going to play Sylvan Caryatid, and then he has 3 additional mana, so he could Finale for, boy, I guess you really don't want to go get a Mana Dork here because it's just going to die to Endbringer.
But I guess it is a jump blocker if you're like trying to, like next turn you have enough to. No, you don't. You can maybe make infinite mana next turn with the Freed from Real if you just survive, and you don't want to jump block with your Sylvan Caryatid.
Yeah,
So
this is tough.
So I think if you get a 1 toughness creature that can block, you're not dead to the 2 creatures, and you don't need to block with the Sylvan Caryatid. Then you draw Freed from Real, and then you have infinite mana, play Karn, and playing Snaring Bridge.
Oh, but that does mean that Matt has to chump with everything.
Yeah, that was a pretty nice. Yeah, so Andres is really doing like the runner top decks here.
Yeah, I mean, I think he was in a good spot to begin with, and the last couple of turns have really cemented the game for him.
Yeah. So if he attacks here, then it's yeah, Matt just has to block because it's 5 trample damage, so it's 14 in total. So he has to block with.
Yeah, I assume he just puts 2 creature, 1 on Thought-Knot, 1 on Endbringer.
Yeah.
Go to 4, and then Endbringer pings Dryad Arbor in your upkeep, and Matt has 3 mana, and I don't know what he could draw from there to get out of this. Yeah, so there's the ping on Dryad Arbor as expected, another Karn, and that'll do it. All right, so 1-1, not too bad.
No, that was actually a pretty nice game. Like normally I kind of hate Razitron because it's just like, yeah, it's kind of boring Magic. But I think this game was like super interactive and a lot of with the mana and what to fetch up. I really enjoyed these games.
Yeah, a lot of interesting decisions on both sides for sure.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Yeah, it was a great doing commentary with them and watching these sweet games and get some insight on the Freed from Real deck.
Yeah, always a pleasure. And we will throw it to commercial real quick and be back for round number 3, tied up 1-1.
CoolStuffInc.com is your home for everything Magic the Gathering. Need singles for constructed or kitchen table play? Looking to pick up some sealed product or the latest in Magic accessories? We've got you covered with our extensive live inventory. With free shipping on orders of $100 or more, a 25% buy list bonus, and our ever-popular customer rewards program, CoolStuffInc.com is the place for all your Magic the Gathering needs.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Team Modern Super League. I'm Andreas, joined by Matt Ness, my opponent just now. Hey, Matt.
Hey, how's it going?
So we just had an interesting match, at least from my side, because I was sitting in the edge of my seat basically every turn because I don't really have much experience against your deck. Were you any close to winning at any points, or was my feelings not,
No,
reasonable?
I was definitely close at various points. Yeah, like there were some turns where if you didn't leave up a Ghost Quarter, I could have killed you. There was when I bounced the Thought-Knot Seer, if you took anything other than Freed from the Real. Yeah, that was a real struggle for me. I wasn't sure if I should just plus the Fairy and like use it as a life gain spell and just kind of hope to peel the Freed from the Real, or if like bouncing to buy time and relying on Karn to win was better. I really wasn't sure.
Yeah, so did you cantrip from Teferi into the free the
Yeah.
enchantment that turn? Okay, yeah, not much you
Yeah.
can do about that.
Yeah, so I drew a land because I drew 2 cards, right? I drew one from Teferi and one from Thought-Knot Seer leaving play.
Right. Yeah. So how do you like that deck compared to something like Devoted Druid? Because
It's pretty similar.
they look kind of similar in the way you should approach it as an opponent, at least. But
yeah.
This definitely got you some style points.
Yeah. You can also play Devoted Druid combo in this deck. I think the best version of it probably does. Devoted is really good with the ley line because it makes 4 mana.
Right, so you can go kind of bonkers that way. I really liked how you just incorporated Karn to make sure that you at least have something to fall back on. It's a pretty good plan B and it still works with your plan A. It's just kind of cool.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's an infinite mana sink, and sometimes this deck just makes a lot of mana, like in game 2, and can just win with Karn that way. And I thought I was going to get there in game 3. I heard you peeled the Endbringer there.
Yeah, it was. I needed to make a decision on your end step about the expedition map, so I needed to make. I wanted to find the Ghost Quarter in case I was super lucky to draw something that I was going to spend my mana on. If mana wasn't a concern, I might have gone for something like Blast Zone, or maybe trying to assemble Tron over a couple of turns. But yeah, that just worked out perfectly. And then the next turn, I drew the Reality Smasher, so I even just.
Yeah, that was a good sequence. Yeah, I thought I would at least have a turn where I could draw Freed from the Real. But after the Smasher, I just couldn't even draw that. I had to block with the card it did too.
Yeah, that's basically where I was at. I was like, okay, now you have like 1 or 2 turns to find your perfect draw, and if you don't, then you lose. But then I just ripped the perfect ones to kind of close the door even faster.
Yeah, definitely a really interesting game. Game 1 was also really interesting. I like my teammates said they thought I may have overcommitted into the Blast Zone, or maybe could have done some stuff different. But all the games were really interesting from my side. I thought both games 1 and 3, I think I could have maybe won with different lines. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's how Magic is supposed to be. We don't want one-sided blowouts when we can.
No, that's great. Yeah, no, that's ideal.
We want the decisions to matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Matt, what do we have up next here? I will be sending Thomas into the arena with Hardened Scales. What about you guys?
Yeah, we have BK with Mardu Death Shadow.
So any initial thoughts on that matchup?
Yeah, Hardened Scales is generally only so-so versus like the removal heavy decks, but this one might not be too bad. It didn't look like BK had Kolaghan's Command in his main deck, at least. He does have Wear Tear in the sideboard, which is really good if you kill a Hardened Scales and an artifact. That's pretty insane. Plague Engineer is also potentially annoying.
Yeah, because Hangerback Walker is one of the best plans against the removal heavy decks.
Yeah. You can also just name construct some of the time, and like if you don't already have something in play,
get rid of some stuff. What creature type is Arcbound Ravager these days? I remember
Arcbound Ravager is the beast these days.
Right.
So if they don't have a Ravager out, you could just name Beast, and unless they have a Hardened Scales, they just won't. Ravager will just be 2 mana, put a counter on something.
Right. So Hardened Scales gets around it because it's not a trigger; it just enters with an additional counter.
Right. And then there is one Kolaghan's Command in BK sideboard as well. So I would guess BK will improve more in the post board games.
Yeah, that's usually how it is with Mox Opal decks. So let's see how it goes. I hear the players are ready, so let's tune down to the match and see what kind of opening hands we're working with. So Andy won the die roll. He has a classic Death Shadow hand, I would say.
Yeah. And I think you want a hand like this against Hardened Scale specifically. You want a more disruptive hand, less threats. So this is pretty much perfect from him. Thomas's hand is only so-so, but does seem like a reasonable keep, given that Hanger Back is probably his best card. And mulliganing against a deck like Death Shadow is a recipe for disaster. Your hand's going to get ripped apart anyway, so you might as well keep 7.
Yeah, I was about to say that that's usually how I like to approach whether it's a black-green Liliana Tarmogoyf strategy or Death Shadow. I want to keep most hands that has an acceptable ratio of lands and spells.
Yeah, completely agree. Thomas also has the Llanowar Reborn in hand. I personally hate Llanowar Reborn in Hard Scales, but it can be good, and this is probably a good matchup for it. So we'll see how it shines here.
Yeah. And losing the Hanger Back didn't exactly help Thomas's, let's call it a borderline opening hand.
Yeah.
At least nothing to get excited about.
Yeah. Interesting. I wasn't sure whether you go for Worker there or just play the Llanowar Reborn. Because in this matchup, you might not even want to attack with that Worker.
You're definitely right. It's definitely a concern whether you should help out the Shadow player's mission of lowering its life total.
Yeah, yeah.
And since Llanowar, Reborn, is that the name of the card? Yeah.
Llanowar Reborn.
It's an into the battlefield tap land. You might as well get that out of the way sooner than later. I got you there.
And BK actually has played a lot of Hardened Scale, so he'll have a lot of experience about how to kind of maneuver this matchup.
Yeah, because killing that Worker, I assume, is not a no-brainer with the Fatal Push when it's your only removal. So I was about to say he must have some experience in the matchup.
Yeah, he knew that letting that Worker die when there's a Nexus in play and letting Nexus get to 2 counters is probably not worth it. And you don't get a chance to respond to Nexus. That's the big thing. Most of the time you can let modular creatures sit and play because you can respond to whatever creature they would play, but that doesn't apply to the creature lands.
So here will we see how does it work with the Llanowar Reborn? It's a May ability, right?
Yep. So Thomas will probably play Llanowar Reborn and then play Ravager and put a counter on the Ravager.
Huh.
Oh, going for something different. I guess he wants more artifacts out.
I assume this is to make sure that if Ravager dies to removal, then at least you get the counter onto Inkmoth.
Yeah, he could also go end step, animate Inkmoth, and then sack Ravager to Throne. The Ravager will modular onto the Inkmoth and then proliferate onto it, but I feel like you need the Ravager to kill.
Yeah, I think especially given that BK spent his Fatal Push killing a Worker, Thomas must be thinking there's more in the works than just a single Fatal Push.
Yeah, that's definitely a possible read. BK also has the spicy one of Hex Parasite, so the big that'll actually be pretty good here in terms of manipulating counters. Its main purpose is that you can pay life with Hex Parasite whenever you want, so you can make your Death Shadow arbitrarily large. But he may actually use the ability here. He could like take a counter off an Arcbound Ravager or something else for that matter, and that could be pretty relevant.
I think that came up the last time we played you guys in round 1 as well. That the Hex Parasite was able to do some shenanigans on our side of the table, but I don't remember the scenario.
Yeah, there's a few different things that Hex Parasite does in Modern. One is Gemstone Mine. If you remove all the counters from Gemstone Mine, it just sits in play, can't tap for mana. And then there's a lot against Hardened Scales. Pentad Prism occasionally sees play. There's not a ton else. But,
Planeswalkers.
Yeah, Planeswalkers is another big one for sure.
I think that was the one, but I can't remember the matchup.
Right.
Shadow hits the table, and as you said, it's pretty cool that you can use Hex Parasite to stay at a healthy life total, but then once you're on the offense, you can just kind of spam the ability and go lower.
Yeah, so for that reason, Thomas needs to treat this Death Shadow as a 12/12. Like it at any moment it could represent 12 damage to the face. That's not lethal at the moment, but it could be soon. Probably by next turn, it's going to be a lethal threat.
Thomas wasn't super excited about this matchup, mainly because of the Temur Battle Rages. Those are just because this deck's playing against big creatures is like having a bunch of small dudes and chump blocking and winning the race. But against Temur Battle Rage, that's not really an option.
Yeah, a lot of the old versions of Mardu Death Shadow didn't play Temur Battle Rage, and I think even the last time BK played it, he didn't have it. But
that's what I thought, but I wasn't too sure about it.
Yeah, but for the Mythic Championship, one of their kind of innovations was to that I think Jacob Wilson came up with was to play Temur Battle Rage in it again, and go with Tidal Scholar and cut the Dreadhorde Arcanist, and just make the red a very small splash.
Yeah, when I looked at the deck list, I can't say I was super impressed by Tide Hollow Scholar on paper, but I assume he has good reasons to run it.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of decks in Modern actually have that much removal, and to the extent that they do, that's kind of overworked. You have Death Shadow as well that they really want to kill, and so having that extra discard spell that also can apply a little pressure and be a warm body is pretty good in this deck.
It's been a while since that effect was playable. When the card first came out, a bunch of decks tried to use it, but then, as you pointed to, removal spells was kind of keeping it from having a big impact on the format. But
yeah, Jund was like one of the biggest decks at the time, and Jund sees some play now, but it's not nearly as popular.
So here it's a close call whether Thomas is fallen asleep. He's feeling a bit under the weather today, or he's actually trying to make a hard decision. It's a coin flip. I'm not sure which.
Oh, there we go. Not asleep.
Yep.
So one thing that Thomas is going to consider is he would like to get 1 point of Infect in whenever he can, because he wants to start Throne of Death proliferating.
That's a great point. I know he's done some playtesting during the week, so he should be aware of that interaction.
Yeah, but I guess he felt like he couldn't really afford to do that here. And so just goes for playing the second Nexus. And this kind of forces Thomas to act. He could just sack a Darksteel Citadel or an Inkmoth Nexus, or he could try to do like a bigger play where he maybe proliferates and does something fancy.
Yeah, Hexpare's definitely putting in work.
Yeah, this seems almost impossible for Thomas. I'm not sure how. I guess Hangerback is probably the best way to get out of this, but I don't really see it.
So how would a hardened scales from the top of the library help Thomas present lethal with an Inkmoth?
It's possible, but among other things, BK could just respond by removing Ravager counters and kind of put Thomas in a bit of a squeeze.
Yeah, you're right. Then Thomas has to act before the enchantment hits the table.
Yeah, BK doesn't have a ton of life to work with, so maybe you do that and then a Ballista becomes an issue or something like that. This is a pretty passive attack. I kind of thought BK could send Ranger Captain or a little bit more, but really concerned about getting burnt up by Ballista, I guess, or...
Yeah. Yeah, it was... Yeah, so BK's plan here is to kill Thomas over 2 turns.
Yeah. And I think Thomas will be in chump block mode starting next turn.
Yeah. He has decided there's no way he can play around Temur Battle Rage anyway, so might as well take the damage.
Yeah, no, I think Thomas is not really thinking about what he can play around and more thinking about how he could possibly win.
Yeah, you're definitely right. It doesn't help playing around a card that just makes you lose the following turn instead.
Right. So will BK go to 5 here? I guess no, he's just gonna accept 6 damage because this means the Death Shadow is a lethal threat. Every subsequent turn, BK can just pay 6 life at will and put Death Shadow up to 12 power.
Yep. So getting to 12 or under is key if you want to kill your opponent in one swing.
Yeah. So Thomas is going to try and poke. Does BK want to remove a counter here? It's kind of a question of whether he's more scared of Infect or his life total.
Yeah. I'm not sure. Does Thomas even have a way out of this?
I think Thomas's best chance is if BK overpays with Hex Parasite and then he rips a Walking Ballista, because Walking Ballista can be played as a 2/2 and then Throne of Geth can sack to pump it, so that's 3. So like
Right.
if BK uses Hex Parasite one more time, he could end up regretting it.
Yeah, I'm sure a player of Andy's character caliber rather would see. I mean, just take a deep breath. How to actually lose this game is just a pretty
Right.
normal way to do it.
Yeah, and now it's super easy because he drew the Fatal Push off the top. I can Thoughtseize to make sure the coast is clear and then just go for the kill.
Yeah. Fatal Push removes the only blocker.
So I think BK winning the pre-board game is going to be pretty rough for Thomas, but
Definitely. Whenever you're playing a Mox Opal based deck and you have to win 2 sideboarded games, you're just not gonna like your chances on average.
Yeah, but Thomas does have some grindy stuff. A lot of times Hardened Scales plays Evolutionary Leap. It looks like he doesn't have that, but he has Karn, Scion of
He has that in the
Urza.
main deck actually.
Oh, he has a Leap main. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, his best grindy cards here are kind of Evo, Leap, and Karn.
Yeah.
And
definitely.
then looks like he wants some small number of Dismembers that can sometimes kill Death Shadow and can also kill Sculler and whatnot. BK, on the other hand, is going to have Wear Tear, Shenanigans, Kolaghan's Command.
And maybe the Plague Engineer, as you talked about.
Yeah, the Plague Engineer as well. I'm surprised Thomas is boarding out Welding Jar, given there's Push, Kolaghan's Command, and Shenanigans and Wear Tear. But
yeah,
it's tough to make room.
I think he just doesn't like that card on paper, and then whenever he sees 4 Path to Exiles in the other deck, we talked about it briefly some hours ago, and yeah, he just didn't like it.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, BK actually has a lot of cards to consider because he also has Liliana, Fulminator Mage, and Leyline of the Void. Leyline stops Ravager, it stops Hangerback Walker, but it's not like Hogak where it's just game over if a Leyline sticks. So you probably don't want to bring in all 4.
Yeah, it's an interesting decision because if you have it in your opening hand and you have a functional hand, then it's going to be great. But drawing it later in a close game can be just super bad, and mulliganing for it is out of the question, I think.
Yeah, I'm a big believer that having like 2 Leylines in your deck is a pretty reasonable strategy, and I would look to do something like that. Yep. But it is true that this is a good matchup, and maybe BK can afford to be down a card if it means that he doesn't have to worry about Hangerback. So he's going to go with all 4.
Yeah, I'm not too sold on that logic. Whether it being a good matchup justifies doing something like this.
Yeah. I mean,
it can easily be the other way around, right?
Yeah, it's a good matchup, and your main way of losing is mulliganing twice by throwing 2 Leylines. Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. It's been a dilemma ever since I started playing competitively. Like when your opponent mulligans, does that make you more likely to keep or more likely to also mulligan? It's just super interesting.
Yeah.
So Thomas with another fair hand, I would call it. That's basically any hand without Hardened Scales, I guess.
Yeah, the module though is one of his best cards in this matchup, so I think he's probably excited. And being on the play, BK doesn't have a chance to strip it, so this is pretty much ideal for Thomas. Except maybe he would like to have a Hardened Scales.
Yeah. But you're definitely right. Getting some synergistic grindy element onto the table before being hit by Inquisition is big game.
There is the Hex Parasite again that
Hex Parasite plus Death Shadow, best buddies.
Yeah. So BK has an interesting decision here. Arcbound Worker is the one that Thomas can play and make a token with. So it's kind of tempting to take that, because if Thomas goes land Walking Ballista or land Hangerback, you can actually just go land Hex Parasite, pay some life, and kill it. I guess on Ballista, it'll kill the Hex Parasite back. So maybe you take...
Yeah, but I don't think Thomas is just going to play out a 1/1 Ballista, to be honest.
Yeah, probably not.
I think he would play the Hangerback should the Arcbound Worker hit the bin.
Yeah, and then you'd be able to eat it. But maybe it's a little risky. Oh, he did go for Worker, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. There's no way Thomas is playing a 1/1 Ballista here.
Yeah, I think it has to be Hangerback here.
Oh, okay. That's also a good card.
Yeah, you don't want to play that one naked, though. You usually want to build your board a little bit before you drop Ravager.
Yeah.
So now BK will probably go for the Hex Parasite line, although the Hangerback will still leave a token behind, so it's not like as insane as it could be.
That's not irrelevant as long as Andy doesn't find the Battle Rage.
Right, right.
Then
And
one chump blocker can be relevant.
Yeah, and it could pressure BK's life total if he doesn't actually have concerns about Death Shadow.
Yep.
That's always the same tough decision we've been discussing.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the Hangerback goes to 0
counter.
counters. Oh yes. We missed that.
So even better.
Yeah. Oh, but the Llanowar Reborn was actually a great draw here. So score 1 for that card, because now BK can play Ballista and take out Hex, or Thomas can play Ballista and take out Hex Parasite without losing the Ballista.
Yeah, definitely.
And this will be really interesting. Ravager module is also insane. I kind of like Thomas's chances here.
Yeah. It's definitely looks like this could be a close contested game.
So BK can drop 2 pretty big creatures next turn. He can drop Death Shadow and Gurmag, because this will put him to 4 cards in graveyard. Oh, he also has to decide how low to go, because he can pay life with Hex Parasite even though he's tapped out. He decides to just pay it once.
So what happened there? What did he do with the ability of Hex Parasite?
He used it for 0.
Yeah,
just to pay 2 life.
Right.
2 life lower.
Yeah, so it X is 0 if you do it that way. Gotcha.
Yeah, X is 0. He just paid the Phyrexian mana.
Yep. So pathing there on main phase to get a card in the graveyard, I assume?
Yeah, so the path was basically a free spell.
Yep.
Although I still kind of think I'd rather have the path in hand and have the Ballista in play. Kind of interesting.
I don't. Yeah, I'm not. With the information Andrew has available, I like his play.
Yeah, it's just always dangerous to give an animation module player more mana to work with.
Definitely. But
there were definitely benefits here too.
We know about the Ravager. We know about the Dismember.
Of course.
And Andrew really just wants to. Yeah. So he's keeping up the Dismember playing, but he may be forced to use it here in response to a Thoughtseize.
Yeah, I mean, Thoughtseize is likely to take Ravager anyway, but it's also not that costly to fire off this Dismember. It's all Death Shadow already outsizes it, so what else are you going to use it on besides the Gurmag?
Yeah.
So I think I would respond with Dismember and just go to 0 cards in hand.
Just to make sure that Andrew doesn't have a choice to make.
Yeah.
It's a pretty marginal upside once you're facing a player that is likely to make the right decision, but
yeah, I don't think holding excuse me, Dismember has a lot of value. But Thomas is not sure. Yeah, he is going to fire it off. The awkward part here is he kind of wanted to chump block with Servo, sack to Arcbound Ravager, and now that line's not available. BK can't attack because Thomas is representing lethal. Actually, Thomas just has lethal on board. If BK's card isn't a removal spell, Thomas can just go for lethal, because animation module with Ravager essentially means you can pay 1 mana to put a counter on Ravager. You sack something to Ravager, make a servo, sack the servo, make a new servo, and just repeat that. So Thomas can get it started by sacking Darksteel Citadel and then just do that 5 times. So Ravager will go up to 6/6 or even 7/7 maybe, and then whichever creature Andrew blocks, Thomas can have the other one go through with lethal damage. Yep. But Thomas it really cripples Thomas's board. He'd have to sack Darksteel Citadel and eventually Arcbound Ravager. And then if there's a Fatal Push or Path on the servo, he'll be down to basically nothing.
So let's try and analyze a little here from Thomas's side of the table. Can it be possible that Andrew has slow rolled a removal spell,
I
or
think
would he just have fired it off on the Ravager before Thomas
yes.
got to untap?
Yes, I think he would have. I think he would have
Yeah.
fired it main phase, especially the way Andrew's been playing this game. He's always
Yeah.
been playing removal main phase.
Yep.
He killed a creature main phase in game 1 and then did it again in game 2 where we didn't even think it was right necessarily. So
Yeah.
based on that, if I were Thomas, I would go for the kill. But
Yep. That's exactly my. I was about to mention that the tendencies of Andrew has also shown in 2 games in a row now with the sorcery speed removal, kind of like how you play against Infect, where you don't want your opponent's protection spells to also be a pump spell. So you go to sorcerer speed a lot.
Right. Yeah, and it looks like Thomas did go for it. And now BK even made the block that makes it actually a little easier on Thomas. If BK wanted to like really make him feel it, he would have blocked the Ravager.
Yeah, so this is also a gentleman's league. So Thomas did that. Thomas didn't need to sweat for that one.
Yeah. BK knew Thomas was going to go for it at that point, and yeah, I think BK realized that Unearth probably shouldn't have been in his deck, so he's going to take that one out for game 3. Go back to a couple street race.
Yeah, Unearth excels in matchups where your creatures actually die from removal spells or blocking or what do I know. I guess you could do some shenanigans against combo decks where you loop the Ranger Captain for its ability or something like that. But
yeah, absolutely.
So here we have a yeah, I guess the 2 bubbles makes it a sure keep.
Yeah, it's not ideal, but you
well,
can't.
That was what I was talking about during sideboarding. If you have a functional hand with Leyline and you never see another copy, it's great, obviously.
Yeah, this one I don't know if it qualifies as functional. It's a little borderline. But
you're right. I'm just assuming that the 2 bubbles plus next draw step finds a white source, and then we have a functional hand. But yeah, you're right.
The other tough decision BK has is how to play this Blood Crypt. You have to shock, right? Leaving up Fatal Push and also the Death Shadow Equity seems like enough.
Yep.
But it could easily be a game where BK Ranger captains for Hex Parasite and regrets ever shocking.
That's definitely not impossible. So he did find the white source plus another path, so he's able to buy himself a lot of time.
But we kind of saw from last game that path has a pretty big downside.
Yep. Yeah, you're right. You're not gonna fire it. The earlier you fire it off, the more sad you are, I guess. And then a shadow, so BK getting somewhat rewarded for shocking himself on turn 1.
Yeah, the tough part here, though, is he does not have a good way to deal with the module. And it may just run away with this game, as may the Karn. Doesn't really have a good answer to either of those cards.
Karn is coming next turn. He needs to get rid of the Ballista before it gets out of hand. It makes a lot of sense to use the Fatal Push and not ramp Thomas into something devastating.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely the way to go here. Gonna trade with a jar. Now do you still path or do you wait? BK says wait.
Huh.
I guess it's he's gonna go for the upkeep. Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. Before Thomas gets the chance to deploy a 4th mana source. And he wants to spend his mana anyway because it's kind of bottlenecked at the moment, so might as well just fire it off.
Yeah, here comes Karn though.
The Martyr Shadow deck doesn't play any lightning bolts, right?
Yeah, the red is just a very light splash. It's just TBR and some sideboard cards. And this is scary.
I don't think you attack with the servo.
Yeah, absolutely not. This is a situation where if you can just stop BK from playing spells, you're going to be in a really good spot.
So here is a Thoughtseize that doesn't do anything besides helping make Death Shadow playable.
Yeah, that's pretty much all it offers. And oh wow, this may actually be. I guess it's not going to be lethal because Ravager basically doesn't help with going for lethal at all.
Yeah,
Because,
it's like having cranial plating in Ravager.
Yes, exactly. Although I guess it does with animation module specifically.
Yeah, BK has seen enough here.
Yeah, whether it's lethal or not, BK just didn't have any outs there.
So how does let's see here? How does Leyline and Ravager work?
Oh yeah. Sorry, he couldn't Ravager because of Leyline. So well,
Sure.
it would still he could still do the thing with animation module, but he could never sack the Ravager to module.
Sure, and that's more than enough to take the match. He could even make another construct off the Karn, and yeah, BK just didn't want to drag the match out.
Yeah.
So Thomas against the odds, I guess you can say, took down both sideboarded games.
Yeah, once he lost game 1, I thought he was a pretty big underdog, but his sideboard card, Karn, actually showed up more than BK's sideboard card, Leyline. So
yeah, and that was a one-of. So yeah, I mean, magical stuff will just happen from time to time, and that's also the charm of why we play this game, I guess.
Of course, love it.
Yeah. So that puts the score at 2-1 in favor of us. But you're no stranger to having your backs against the wall and coming back.
Oh yeah, we're fine. We got this.
So what do you have lined up next? I will go to the arena with my Bant Snake Shift deck.
Yeah, and you're going to be playing against Hogak, which I imagine will be pretty tough. Although you do have Leyline, so.
Yeah, I've been doing some testing, but I think I've been running reasonably well. So I think it's a lot closer to like, I don't know, 40-60 in your favor than my results show. But hopefully I can write.
Well, we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for watching, and I'll see you guys after the break for more sweet modern action.
CoolStuffInc.com is your home for everything Magic the Gathering. Need singles for constructed or kitchen table play? Looking to pick up some sealed product or the latest in Magic accessories? We've got you covered with our extensive live inventory. With free shipping on orders of $100 or more, a 25% buy list bonus, and our ever-popular customer rewards program, CoolStuffInc.com is the place for all your Magic the Gathering needs.
Welcome back to Team Modern Super League. I'm Andrew Beckstrom here from Team ChannelFireball, joined by Mage Markets Michael Bonda. How are we doing tonight, Michael?
I'm doing great, even though it's 4:40 in the morning.
Well, we appreciate you staying up to be with us. So we just watched you take down my Mardu Death Shadow deck with Hardened Scales in a pretty exciting 3-game match.
Yep.
Game 2, I think, was the real highlight of the match.
Yeah, I think Thomas appreciates your gentleman block on the on the servo, so that he didn't have to go through the sweat.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those things where, like, as soon as I passed the turn at the end of game 2, I'm just like, there's no way. I know you're a good enough player. I know there's no way you're going to come to the conclusion that, given the game state, I would ever actually pass and try to bait you into some really ridiculous play where I kill your Ravager once you have all of your mana untapped plus animation module, because that combo is just so strong. And even if you like made a bunch of servos and did a little bit, it would still be a lot to deal with, even if I did successfully like trap you. So at a certain point, I was just like, I should just kind of like make plays to get this over with.
Yeah, so I think there was like an interesting decision there. Andreas was talking about in the commentary. You were playing against Thomas, Andrew. You're not playing against me.
Oh, I wasn't playing against you. Got it.
Yeah, Thomas is a bit. He has a cold or under the weather.
Okay.
So there was like if he should go for it or not. But you were playing your removal like in the main phase in both game 1 and all of the turns in game 2. So it would be kind of weird if you like sandbagged the removal when he had a Ravager on the board. So I think that was also a deciding point. What can you have in hand? Should I go for it or not? And giving you the draw just makes the situation even worse, because you can draw into a removal spell. So, but it was definitely a great game.
Yeah, definitely an important thing against the Hardened Scales deck is they can do a lot of things that'll just happen thanks to their lands. Like if they have a Ravager in play and just drop an Inkmoth Nexus or a Darksteel Citadel, they might have access to different lines that they wouldn't, and you don't even get a chance to respond when your opponent's just making a land drop. So that's how that sort of worked out. And yeah, that matchup is pretty interesting. Definitely, I brought in the Plague Engineers because a really strong element that Thomas had access to was those animation modules, which we saw be so important in both game 2 and game 3. It can just make it really impossible for a Death Shadow to get in. And that's part of why I brought in Leyline of the Void, is because of how it interacts with Hangerback Walker.
Yeah.
It's kind of a common question, is when you're playing with a Leyline deck against Hardened Scales, do you want it? And for me, I think ultimately the tiebreaker is usually how good is Hangerback Walker in the matchup? Because if shutting down the Thopters you're getting from that is meaningful, then we're not just talking about just Ravager or just Arcbound Worker. Now we're talking about there's a whole suite of creatures that Leyline of the Void meaningfully interacts with.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the thought process there. But let's move forward. Let's start talking about the next match we've got up. We've got up Sam Pardee. He's playing Hogak. So Hogak is this new card from Modern. No. If you haven't seen it before, we got a crazy graveyard combo deck where Sam's going to be tapping no lands to put an 8/8 into play, and hopefully be doing that on the second turn of the game. On the other side, why don't you tell us a little bit about the Snake Shift deck you guys have brought?
Yeah, so the Snake Shift deck is pretty much a Scape Shift deck, or a Bring to Light deck, which is also a Scape Shift deck. So it's we were talking about like prior to this Modern Super League, when we had to like submit our first like decks. We're talking about like the Snake, the Ice Fang Cuddle, and how if it would be good or not. And then eventually like people started like putting it into their decks and made like this Bring to Light deck that has both a toolbox but also just a combo kill, and having like the Snakes and Secure Tribal Elders just to like block early. So it's a combo deck that is also like in a control shell, and it's softer to some matchups, but it's better against some other matchups. Like it's Scape Shift Anno 2013, I think, something like that.
Yeah, this was the deck that was kind of like the buzzy deck about 2 weeks before the PT, before everybody figured out Hogak. So we'll see what it can do. Hogak kind of displaced it, and we're going to head on down to the match.
Yeah.
All right, so Sam's already taken a mulligan, still has 7 cards, of course, and is deciding if he wants to potentially keep this and what he'll put back. This hand looks like a fine start for a 6 with 2 good 1-drop enablers and Faithless Looting and Supplier. On the other side, how are things looking?
So Andreas has like double ramp, he has a Cuddle, and he has 2 Bring to Lights. Having 2 Bring to Lights is not really what you want, but then you can fire the first one off on 5 mana and then go for like a kill the turn after. So I think like being able to ramp and then block a Hogak, taking 7 with the Cuddle, or blocking a Vengevine, I think this hand is pretty good, but it seems like Andreas also mulliganed here. So he put away one of the Bring to Lights.
Sam starts off with a Faithless Looting, and nothing too exciting. Just picks up a couple of lands. Sometimes you see against Scapeshift decks, people try to stay above 18. The mana base Sam is playing with is extremely painful. He's not even going to bother with that, I guarantee you.
But the fun thing is here, even though this hand looks pretty medium, it can still just throw out a Hogak turn 2.
Well, he's not going to. He flips over a Bloodcast, but that's about the excitement. He also is going to get to hardcast a Gravecrawler. So if he had mulled a Vengevine with the Stitcher Supplier, the Gravecrawler would be the second creature, but no going there.
Or even the Hogak here with the So this is the power of the deck, but fortunately, Sam is only drawing lands here. But with the Faithless Looting, it's not the worst. But he's gonna Faithless Looting here to potentially get the Hogak, so he can put an 8/8 into play.
Wow, and Sam finds 2 more lands. And you notice he's actually just going for all of the shock fetches first. Sam's actually valuing in this spot the thinning aspect of the deck.
Yeah. But playing against Scapeshift, you know that if you're at 18 life, you're going to die if there's a 7 land on the board. So being like more than 17 just doesn't make sense, or more than 18. If you can be more than 18, then it's good. But less, it doesn't matter if it's 9 or if it's 17.
So a very snake-heavy draw from you guys. You've drawn already 4 snakes this game. Finally, we see a card that can come back for a big one that can come back from the graveyard and Vengevine, but no creatures will be cast this turn. So yeah, it looks like just a medium attack and a flashback of Faithless Looting this turn from Sam. I guess if he gets a Hogak, he can cast it.
Yes, I think it's still a pretty good draw with the Faithless Looting, because the Hogak is gonna get back onto the battlefield. Also, he has drawn a lot of lands. Like it happens sometimes with this deck, but there are still some upside with the Faithless Looting here if he gets the Hogak.
Sam's dropping all the way down to 9.
Yeah.
Lightning Axe and Bloodghast are the pickups.
Yeah, so
funny enough, Sam actually milled or Faithless Looting away the Overgrown Tomb early on in the game, so he did not have that as an option to pick up to try to hard cast the Vengevine. Do you think we'll see Andreas go for a Path to Exile here?
No, I don't think so. I don't think he wants to ramp. I think he wants to wait for Hogak.
Wow, you guys are getting really close. I believe you'll be able to Scapeshift next turn, and have a Path to Exile. Search for tomorrow.
A forest here probably, and then play the Sakura, and then have Path up if something crazy is going to happen with the 2 cards in the hand.
Yeah, Search for Tomorrow is a unique ramp spell in that it puts the land into play untapped.
Yep. So what I think the reason Sam kept the Bloodghast, not putting it into the graveyard, it was to be able to draw a creature and get the Vengevine just to pressure the life total. So he did get that. So if he mills 2 Vengevines here, I think Andreas will actually be in some trouble. I don't know if it's enough though.
Well, we finally hit a Hogak, but yeah, I'm just not seeing a way that Sam's going to be able to win with a Chump Blocker and Sakura Tribe Elder and a Path to Exile, and Andreas at 14.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
So I guess
no. Sam had a lot of looks to find more Vengevines there.
Yeah. I guess double Vengevine there would put... I don't think it would be enough, but it would put the Andreas down to a very low life total, though.
Yeah, I think even if Sam brought back all 4 Vengevines this turn, 1 would get Pathed, 1 would get Chump Blocked, 2 would get in with Bloodghast, dropping Andreas down to 4. So even in the world of perfect, not enough for Sam. So it looks like we're going to be heading to sideboarding in a second. I don't anticipate Sam making you guys go through all the motions once Bring to Light is on the stack.
No, but maybe he actually should, because Andreas played a finals of a Mox, like a real Mox, where he fell asleep with Scapeshift triggers or with Valakut triggers on the stack, and actually lost the finals in game 3. His opponent tapped out, no cards in hand, and just he fell asleep. So it can happen. So maybe he should play it out.
Well, I know my roommate better than you, and Sam scoops it up early. So the first thing we see is Snap go in, those 4 Ley Lines of the Void.
Yeah.
And yeah, no black mana in the deck. So if those are in the opening hand, that's great. And if not, they're not doing much. Funny enough, Bring to Light actually can't get Ley Line of the Void. Enchantment is not one of the types. It's only creature, instant, and sorcery.
Yep.
On the other side, interestingly, Sam's bringing in, the standard. He's got 5 answers to Ley Line of the Void, and a card which frequently goes out is Altar of Dementia. But I don't see Sam bringing it out, and I think the reason why is that Sam believes that an alternate way that he can win this game is by milling Andreas out of the necessary amount of mountains.
Yeah, that is definitely also a line of play, and that's a pretty nice line of play. So how come you went with the Hedron Crab and the Altar of Dementia builds?
Yeah, the Hedron Crab we just thought was like basically very good if you could get the mana to work, and we came to the conclusion that once you played with 4 Gemstone Mine, things were good enough there. The fact that Gemstone Mine goes after 3 turns, we didn't think was too much of an issue, except basically against Blue-White, because the games are relatively fast, and sometimes depleting the Gemstone Mine gives you enough cards to actually be able to delve a Hogak into play without maybe having to exile a Vengevine or a Bloodghast.
Okay.
Altar of Dementia we thought was just going to be pretty useful against all the Ensnaring Bridge decks that we thought people might turn to against Hogak at the PT, as well as being a very good card in the mirror, where the matchups, especially in Game 1, get pretty grindy, and milling the opponent out by comboing with multiple Hogaks is a viable plan. Of course, some teams went a little bit deeper and showed up with main deck Ley Line of the Void.
Yeah, we did on on our side of the table. 2 at least.
Yeah.
But it didn't really fit that well with the Hedron Crab plan. There wasn't really space enough. So you either played the blue or you played the Ley Lines in the main, I think.
So Sam's got a nice looking hand with a 1-cost enabler and 2 answers to Ley Line of the Void. Yeah. On Andreas' side, Anger of the Gods is pretty useful at cleaning up everything that isn't Hogak. It depends if a Carrion Feeder is in play. It's worth noting that Carrion Feeder is pretty useful in those spots.
Yeah, so this is one of the kind of the Anger of the Gods can be really good, but it's a hand with no Ley Lines. So either you should mulligan or you should rely on the Anger of the Gods.
Wow. So
Andreas is relying on the Anger of the Gods and making the Nature's Claim a blank, but being a bit weak to like a potential super aggressive Hogak start here. But it's just going to be a land go, and then it's on Sam.
I was in a similar spot at the PT when I played against Hogak, where I kept a hand against a Hogak player who kept Snap, kept the 7, and I didn't have Ley Line, and it made me like want to mulligan to Ley Line less, because I just kind of assumed their 7 must have an answer to Ley Line, and that's exactly what happened here.
So a Tribelder. So a fun thing here is if Andreas is gonna like sacrifice, he probably is when he drew the Cryptic Command, but if not, I could definitely see Sakura just blocking a Vengevine next turn. But I think he's gonna protect himself from a Hogak here with the Cryptic.
Yeah, going for the keep Sakura Tribelder is like a play that you around longer than you need or could sacrifice it, is a play that veteran Scapeshift players make quite frequently. In this spot, though, it's the difference between being able to play Cryptic Command next turn or not, so I like Andreas' play.
Yep. And Search for Tomorrow, he's really getting the tough situations where he should play, but I still think that just staying with the Cryptic Command is probably the right play. But he is very close to actually winning the game, having Sam at 17 and only needing 1 more land drop, like next turn and then the turn after to actually win the game.
The hand developed really nicely because there was 0 acceleration in the opener, but the first 2 of the first 3 draw steps were Search for Tomorrow and Tribelder. And unfortunately, that Altar of Dementia comes down 1 turn too late, because now we've hit 4 mana, and now we want to be hard casting these Vengevines.
Yeah. Oh, and Andreas is really... So he's probably just going to tap here? No, he isn't. Maybe he's going to bounce. He's probably going to bounce, then... He's actually just going to take it. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to bounce, you do it now in combat.
Yeah, so he might just fire off the Anger of the Gods here then. But he play Search for Tomorrow for Anger, or for a Mountain, and then play a fetch land, and then just Anger away the 2 cards.
Yeah, really nice.
Sam with...
If the altar was down, the game's totally different. Sam gets to sack his creatures, mill himself, trigger Stitcher Supplier. Instead, he gets none of it. And yeah, this looks pretty over. There's no fanciness Sam can do with Assassin's Trophy, right?
So Assassin's Trophy works the way that it kills a card, and the card goes to the graveyard, and then you get to search. So you like to get to search a mountain, and everything will still trigger, even though you kill the Valakut. And even the card.
The only way Sam gets out of this is Andreas is playing with 2 snow-covered mountains. One's in play. If for some reason the other snow-covered mountain gets searched as part of this this bunch, then Sam can Assassin's Trophy any of the lands. When the Scapeshift trigger is resolved, they won't see that many. They won't see 6 mountains in play, and all the triggers will fizzle.
Except if he takes away the Valakut.
Yes. I don't think Sam's going to fall for that. So it'll be very interesting to see. Does Andreas figure out what the game might be about?
Yeah. Yeah, and as Smurf729 is saying he's saying pretty much the same as you. If he draws the 6 mountain or the
Now, I believe you have enough that he can get just Steam Vents and Stomping Grounds and be fine. And Andres is an excellent Magic player, sees the line, not going to give Sam a window, and we see 6 Valakut the Molten Pinnacle triggers going on the stack, all targeting Smithster's face for 18 damage.
Yep.
Sam's going to try to catch Andreas napping.
And Andreas did. There is an additional mountain.
Sam just dealt himself an extra 3 points of damage. I don't know what he's doing. Now, that was a good way of playing to his outs. So that was pretty well done, pretty well drawn up. Anger of the Gods to buy time, acceleration, creatures, cryptic command to protect yourself from anything funky from happening, and then just Scapeshift for 18.
And showing that Hogak is actually a mortal deck and not an immortal deck that can't get beat by a tier 2.5 deck, as someone wrote in the chat.
Well, I will note that Hogak never saw the battlefield, or I guess maybe it did at the end of game 1, but never really got to flex its Risen Acropolis muscle.
Yeah, I think like it was pretty unlucky with all the Fatal Looting action in game 1, not drawing like a single one or even like some explosive. But that is sometimes what happens with these weird combo decks, that you just don't draw your outs and lose yourself. It is
all right. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, so now we're up against the wall. We're down 3-1. All of Channel Fireball's hopes and dreams. This is the quarterfinals. If we lose this week, we're done. They all rest on Matt Nass playing a deck that I believe he has physically never played before, but he has watched me play and helped me play it. So hopefully he's the combo king. That's what they call him. So we'll see if he can pull it out. We're going to head to a commercial break and we'll be back real soon.
CoolStuffInc.com is your home for everything Magic the Gathering. Need singles for constructed or kitchen table play? Looking to pick up some sealed product or the latest in Magic accessories? We've got you covered with our extensive live inventory. With free shipping on orders of $100 or more, a 25% buy list bonus, and our ever-popular customer rewards program, CoolStuffInc.com is the place for all your Magic the Gathering needs.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Team Modern Super League. I'm Andreas, joined by Sam. Hey, Sam, how are you?
Hey, doing good. That was a tough loss, but I'm 1-1 now today, so I can't complain too much.
Yeah, you got yours covered, I guess you can say. But one of you guys need to have a positive score for you to take it all down, and now you really got your backs against the wall.
Yeah, we're gonna have to 3-0 you guys in the last three. And we have an interesting matchup up here. I really don't know how this is supposed to play out. Do you have any thoughts on how this
Well,
Twiddle Storm versus
before we get
Phoenix?
to that, I want to ask a few questions about the match we just had, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
So you keep 7 in game 2. Was that on the back of having leyline removal, or how does the decision making work in a matchup like that?
Yeah, my hand was double Vengevine, Stitcher Supplier, 2 lands, Nature's Claim, and the Assassin's Trophy. So I have Leyline covered, and the Vengevines are obviously not great to draw, but they're okay. It's not horrible. And I have a Stitcher Supplier to maybe get things going. Maybe I find a Faithless Looting or whatever off of it. I thought it was an okay but not stellar hand, and didn't really want to go to 6.
Yeah. So how much does that have to do with open deck lists? Because I can imagine there are some hands on the, right there on the edge where the open deck list can really just tip it into, okay, I'll keep this hand because I know he has leyline.
Yeah, I think if I didn't know that you had Leyline in your deck, I probably would have mulliganed that hand. But knowing it, also the fact that Assassin's Trophy could sometimes be disruption some of the time. One of my sort of plan Bs in the matchup is actually just to mill you with Alter and Crab, and if I mill enough lands, then you can't actually kill with the Scape Shift. So with the Assassin's Trophy in hand, if I mill over a couple mountains, or you draw one, or you have to fetch one, or whatever, then basic mountains, I should say, then the Assassin's Trophy could actually disrupt. Like when you went for it there, I didn't just concede, because if you had the basic mountain in your hand and I destroy it, you don't have enough mountains left in your deck to actually win.
Yeah, sure. It's definitely a thing, and that's what you need to be wary about whenever you're playing Scapeshift. It's just a good idea to let a basic mountain be left in your deck if you have that luxury. But I had that game. I had the luxury that game. So yeah, what do you have up next? You guys are bringing the interesting Storm deck into the arena. Talk about that one.
Yeah, so we've got Twiddle Storm, which the goal is to get a Lotus Field into play, and then use a mix of Twiddle, Dream's Grip, and Psychic Puppetry. Psychic Puppetry being the big one. That's the splice onto Arcane Twiddle to untap Lotus Field. So once you have a Lotus Field in play, every Twiddle is basically a Dark Ritual. So that's obviously super powerful. And then you just draw through your deck using Peer Through Depths, Ideas Unbound, and Reach Through Mists, as well as Serum and Slight, to keep drawing cards, using the Twiddles to keep generating mana. Eventually, you go for a Past in Flames and then Grape Shot them out. Against Phoenix, one thing you have to be very wary of is the fact that they could have Surgical. So you really don't want to expose your Grape Shot to a potential surgical extraction if you can avoid doing so.
Yeah, but in a matchup like that, you're not really in the market for just pinging random creatures with the first Grape Shot, so that shouldn't be too much of a concern, I think.
Yeah, Matt just needs to be careful to not, like, it can be really attractive, once you get to 10 Storm, to just go Grape Shot, Past in Flames, Grape Shot again. And that
leaves a window
disaster.
for surgical. Yeah, you're definitely right about that.
Yeah.
So I imagine this matchup will be most likely a race, especially game 1. After sideboard, Thomas has a little bit of interaction, and I noticed the 4 copies of Aria Flame in your sideboard. Is that something you're bringing into combat Graveyard Hate, or why is that card good?
Yeah, I would expect to see Matt bring that in. It is extremely good against Graveyard Hate. You just play it on turn 3, they go up to 30, and then you just have to play 8 spells from there, and that's lethal. So, I expect we were expecting is it Thomas who's playing?
Yeah, Thomas is playing.
For Thomas to bring in the Ravenous Traps and additional Surgicals, and maybe, we didn't know what we were going to play against. Maybe they have Leyline, all sorts of things like that make Past in Flames not work. So that's the plan there, is to just sort of sidestep that whole issue.
Yeah. Yeah, Aria Flame has just provided a new angle of attack for numerous decks, I guess. The most, mainstay of those are, of course, is it Phoenix, but in your deck, it definitely plays a nice role as well.
Yep, and it sounds like the players are ready, so let's see what we got.
Let's get down to the match, Sam.
All right. So that looks like a pretty clear mulligan from Thomas's side.
Yeah.
And Matt's hand is interesting. It's not great. He
I
doesn't have a
assume
Lotus Field.
you keep most hands on the back of the blue cantrips. That's also one of the strengths of Is It Phoenix? You can always just draw out of it if you have like a. I mean, the cantrips can be anything, right?
Yeah, I do expect Matt to keep, but I think this is right on the borderline.
Okay.
I think Serum Vision does fix a lot of the problems. The Phoenix matchup is, they're not the fastest goldfish in the world. They don't kill you on turn 3 very often. So he will have time, even if he just finds a Teleria West, to probably transmute it and then play the Lotus Field and go from there.
Yeah.
And yep,
Thomas
on
bottom. The
plane.
Phoenix makes a lot of sense. No Faithless Looting in sight.
Yep, Phoenix not doing a lot in his hand. And Thomas is a little spell light, actually. It looks like it might take him a little while to get that Thing in the Ice flipped.
Yeah, so I expect him to go turn 2, Thing in the Ice, and then the Aria, and then try and go from there to have a big turn 4. But let's see how it shapes out.
Yeah, that sounds right. And Matt probably will Merchant Scroll, I would guess, for just Echoing Truth. But I suppose he could get a card draw spell as well. We'll see what he wants to do. He might also just cast Ideas Unbound here. Discarding Past in Flames is not that big a cost. It leaves him a little vulnerable to Surgical, but it lets him dig 3 cards deeper right now, which I think might be his priority.
So do you think he bottomed the card from Serum Visions, or you think he actually wanted the Merchant Scroll?
He drew the Merchant Scroll off the Serum Visions, right? He would have been the Ideas Unbound, which I think
then
almost
same
certainly
question
means
with
he
the Ideas
bottomed.
Unbound. Yeah, me too. So and
Yeah.
it looks like he didn't even find a land on
This was only his turn 2 though, so that's not actually a big deal.
Right.
So he's set up now to go slight next turn, hopefully to find the Lotus Field. Maybe he'll have to just find a regular land, play Ideas Unbound, and then find Lotus Field from there. Oh, he's ditching the Ideas Unbound. I assumed he was going to discard 2 Past in Flames, and then
I don't think he wants to. I think Surgical Extraction is on his radar.
Yeah, it seems really tough to keep 2 Past in Flames, like to try to play around that by keeping 2 Past in Flames in your hand. That's too much, I think.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It has a high cost here, but that's what Matt is going for.
Yeah, that's what he's going to try to do.
And there's the Surgical.
He's getting paid off, so I guess it worked out.
Yeah. So it's tempting for Thomas to try and flip that Thing in the Ice and get things going, but I'm not sure it's actually faster than just dropping the Aria and then hoping for a huge turn 4.
Yeah, that seems right. So
then you have to fire off a bad Surgical probably to get there.
Yeah.
If you're going for it now.
Yeah, maybe you could also just start with Thought Scour and see where that gets you. Like if it hits Phoenixes, then that's a 2-turn clock, and that kind of might leave you open to wanting to do that.
Yeah, you're right. You need one Phoenix from the top 2 to make it a 2-turn clock, I should say.
Yeah, so you might see him start there. It is true that if you do that, then you can't play Arya this turn, so you don't know. You don't know before you start.
I think he's in a reasonable spot to finish the game next turn if he drops the Aria, but
So how many spells does he actually need if he plays Arya? 4 spells would deal 10 damage.
Yeah,
from
that's
Arya,
10 plus the 7
plus
from the
7 from Thing. So that would leave Matt at 13.
13, right? Yep.
So then he'd need 2 more. So that's a lot of spells to try to hit in one turn.
Yeah.
So it looks like Thomas is starting with Manamorphose, which is kind of a non-committal way to start things. And then Thought Scour does not hit any Phoenixes, but draws a Faithless Looting. So he kind of gets some more looks at Phoenixes now if he wants to do that, which I would guess he probably does.
He will need to hit a blue cantrip unless he wants to fire off the bad Surgical Extraction I was talking about earlier.
Right, and no blue cantrips, so I would guess what we're going to see here is discard Aria, discard Flooded Strand, fire off Surgical, and then you can hope to peel Lightning Bolt next turn, which would also be lethal because you'd get 2 hits with the Thing in the Ice is 14 and 2 Lightning Bolts is a clean 20.
So the question is, what do you target here?
Yeah.
I guess it's the untap effect, right?
I'm not sure if it's the untap effect or maybe Peer Through Depths and try to choke Matt on arcane spells.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I don't have any experience, but my instinct says that you want to. And he's even taking a third option, so.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking between Ideas Unbound and Peer Through Depths, that you would choose Peer Through Depths just because there's 3 left in Matt's deck, so it's more likely he has one in his hand.
The thing about Peer Through Depths is that if Matt has to spend 2 mana digging, I think Thomas is fine with that. Where the Ideas Unbound can just use some more broken things in the 1-turn window that he's trying to set up for Matt. Just a 1-turn window to go broken.
Yep, that makes perfect sense.
But it's
the
close.
Ideas lets you look at a lot more cards. So yeah, from Matt's perspective, he's really he's gonna need to fade a lightning bolt probably for a turn, and
Yep.
hope to peel something great, a Lotus Field for starters, and then maybe something else from there. I guess he could also just merchant scroll up a bounce spell and use that. Maybe that might be a
Yeah.
viable option. Oh, but here's the field. Okay, so that's a good start.
So can he go anywhere from here? I am having a pretty hard time.
I don't think he can go off
Realizing.
this turn. I think
Yes.
he's going to have to go merchant scroll for psychic puppetry. Okay.
Yeah, he
So
needs to
yeah.
focus on his own game plan right now.
Yep. And he's not that likely to die. It would need to be double bolt exactly almost, or some way to discard
Yeah,
Phoenix plus bolt.
Phoenix plus bolt. Yeah.
So I think this is relatively safe. And starting next turn, he can also use these twiddle effects just to tap down the Awoken Horror and
Yep.
stay alive that way. So Thomas opting to Faithless Looting rather than crack the Fiery
Yeah.
Owlet, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Why would you? What's the upside of looting there?
So you just get to look at more cards, and I think it gives you a slightly higher chance of finding a surgical or something that actually impacts the game.
Yeah. So rather than looking for the lightning bolt to finish the game, you want to have more options, more reasonable hits.
Right. I think basically, that was Thomas conceding that he's very unlikely to finish the game this turn,
Yeah.
and just trying to find something to let him, go relatively deep for the next turn to make sure that he actually wins. And
Sure.
I think Matt's going to be able to go pretty deep here. He's going to get to Past in Flames with 3 Twiddles in the yard and a bunch of arcane spells that you can splice onto arcane from your graveyard. So this is going to be a pretty potent turn for Matt. I think he's pretty likely to kill here.
For sure. It's pretty cool. We get to see he actually found the land off of the sleight of hand, so we get to see this great deck in action.
Yeah, this is going to be quite something.
Oh
So
yeah.
yeah, let's see. He has 2 Dreams Grips, a Peer Through Depths, and a Reach Through Mists are all functionally. The Peer Through Depths is functionally free because it costs 2 and the Splice is 1. The Reach Through Mists is +1 mana. The Dreams Grips are +2 mana each. So that's a ton of mana he's going to get to generate. And if any arcane spells he draws off of his additional cantrips are also going to be very good for him.
Definitely. So Matt is off to the races for sure.
Yeah, so Thomas looks like he's considering opting here to try to find Surgical. He only has 1 left in his deck, I believe.
Yeah.
Right? He has 2 main deck, but I think there might as well. There's not a lot of upside in not doing it. Oh,
I agree.
okay.
I agree. I would have fired off as well.
He's gonna wait. Maybe he's hoping to get Matt into a situation where he has to play the Grape Shot first, and then he can snag it.
Sure, I would have fired off the opt no matter what my plan was in this spot.
Yeah, that makes some sense to me. It does leave you with fewer outs, right? Because Phoenix off the top also kills if you bolt, assuming that your Awoken Horror is going to get tapped down.
That's a great point. Even though at this point I wouldn't expect Matt to fizzle and go into buy time mode. I would expect Matt to go for the throat here.
Yes, I think Matt is a pretty big favorite to get a kill from here. He can also always just flash back the Past in Flames with all the new cantrips that he draws into, and get somewhere from there.
Oh yeah. So now we get to see some splicing, right?
Yep. This is so he's spliced onto Arcane with this Peer Through Depths onto the Psychic Puppetry. And he's actually kind of fizzling out, but he does still have Merchant Scroll, which can get another cantrip for him if he needs it. And obviously, all of these Psychic Puppetries represent +1 mana each. Matt is probably trying to not expose them in the graveyard because of Surgical, but at some point, I think he's going to have to.
Yeah.
And the Merchant Scroll could also just tutor for a Twiddle if Matt needs it to. We have a storm count of 10 now on screen, and we can add up Psychic Puppetries are 1, 2, 3. That's 14. Recasting the Merchant Scroll for a Twiddle is 15, 16. The Serum Visions is 17. So he's a little bit short right now. He'll need to find a few more spells, but I don't think that's going to be much of an issue.
No. He's good to go here.
Yep. He's got it all rolled up. Oh, and there's a second Grape Shot. All right, so that makes it real easy then.
Yep. Even in the face of Surgical, the original Grape Shot copy resolves in the end, and then you get back priority. So having double Grape Shot beats Surgical.
Right. There's really nothing that can be done to prevent it.
So pretty interesting game where the ideas Unbound, not discarding the double Path in Flames, really benefited Matt in the long run. We have to give him credit for that one.
Yeah, that was a really heads up play. I think I would have thought I felt like he was a little bit behind, and I would have felt like it was going to be too tough to win the game. I would have accepted that you just lose to Surgical, but he drew out of it and it worked out really, really well. That's impressive.
He ended up discarding real cards instead of the Past in Flames, which even has flashback, out of respect for 2 Surgical extractions in Thomas's list. That's just masterfully played.
Yep, that was really, really well done. And yeah, here's one Grape Shot for 18. That'll just do it by itself.
Yep.
Very nice.
No need to overdo it. Very well played by Matt.
Yeah, that was great stuff. So now we get to see how they sideboard. What have you guys talked about what you were going to do?
We have some counter spells on the sideboard, and then I told Thomas that I expect you guys to go down on the graveyard shenanigans after sideboard, and I don't think you guys will rely on Empty the Warrens either in the face of Thing in the Ice. So we have some easy cuts there in removal spells, and I'm not sure we're bringing in too much graveyard hate. Maybe the third Surgical, I'm not sure. But yeah, Thomas, he said he liked Molten Rain on the play.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense to me. You can't actually hit Lotus Field with it because it has hexproof, but you can still just keep them off of getting to 3 lands, which is a pretty big game.
Yeah, it can definitely be it could definitely be good. And then I told him that you don't need that many win conditions because you guys are not really in the market for disrupting our win conditions. So he could easily trim Mario Flame if he needed to, and it looks like he's getting rid of a few copies.
Yep. And we see Matt cutting Twiddles on his side, and as you said, some of the graveyard shenanigans. So he's cutting down on Past in Flames. I don't think he's going to take them all out, but he's just going to have fewer.
Yeah.
I couldn't see. I think he boarded out the Echoing Truth. I don't see it there, which I think makes a lot of sense. There's no, there's no ley lines, no chalices, none of that to interact with. So he doesn't have to worry about that. And then the Engineered Explosives, it's okay. It hits Thing in the Ice, but I don't think that's really what you're in the market for.
No, with decks like that, I just like to optimize my own plan and only have answers for serious hate.
Yep, exactly. And we see Matt with a 1-lander that is just Lotus Field, so that's an easy throwback.
Yeah.
And then Thomas has a pretty nice looking draw.
Depending on what the Faithless Looting is finding.
Yeah, but Molten Rain looks like it's going to be really good against what Matt has here.
Oh yeah.
Matt's a bit land light. Oh, and there's a second Molten Rain. That's huge.
So now's the question: if you're banking on finding the third land via your other cantrips, in case you're binning binning 2 lands here, I would actually lean towards that one, getting rid of 2 lands and then leaning on my cantrips to get there. I don't want to end up mana flooded in the long game, but it depends on how conservatively you want to play it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, knowing Matt's hand, I think the best thing would be to discard Mountain Manamorphose. But
Oh yeah, and just
obviously,
make
Thomas
sure
doesn't
that
know
you're
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so
what
what
he
he
does.
went with. Yep.
Yeah.
I
So
think I
this
like
way,
that. I think I like playing it safe.
this way he ensures that he's casting a Molten Rain on turn 3 and 4, and he risks having too many lands in the long game. But I guess a Flashback Faithless looting can mitigate that. So no worries.
Well, he might think he's casting Molten Rains on turn 3 and 4. Matt does have the option of Psychic Puppetrying during Thomas's upkeep on one of his lands to ensure that the Lotus Field comes down safely. And I don't think that would be a crazy play from Matt.
I don't know if you talked about it, but did you expect Molten Rain to come in?
Yes, we did. Definitely.
Okay. Then it could definitely be on Matt's radar.
But it looks like he is not going to do that. He's just going to scroll up. I'm not sure what.
Yeah, I'm used to playing a lot of Vintage where Merchant Scroll gets the good stuff, but
yeah, the options are a little more limited.
This is something else. Yeah, so this is definitely not good news for Matt getting back-to-back Molten Rain here.
Yeah, especially if he doesn't manage to find a land after the first Molten Rain, he's going to be set back all the way to 0. That would be a disaster.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, he did go for Pact of Negation. I think that's reasonable.
That might be good later.
Yeah, might be good for later, but not really going to do much now. And yeah, here comes the Molten Rain Parade. Unfortunately, can't really Pact of Negation that one.
Land off the top is a start.
Yep, that's a good draw, and we'll see if Sleight of Hand finds another one.
Here you can take note of Matt's sequence of playing out the cantrip first to keep Thomas guessing whether he was looking for lands or the opposite was the case.
Yep, that's definitely a heads up play.
Manamorphose, that's a great draw.
Yeah, man. So if Thomas finds a land here, he's going to get to start swinging with the Thing in the Ice, which is going to be pretty big.
So how much of a gambler are you? I'm talking about whether you should looting here.
I feel like, especially with the Force of Negation now,
you
should just play it safe.
Yeah.
You don't
Force of
even
Negations changes.
Yeah, you don't even want to discard any of your cards. You kind of want to keep them all for now.
Yeah. The thing is, once we get to the crucial turn, the Pact has the Pact of Negation has the Force of Negation covered.
Right, that's true. But you could potentially use the Force to just stop a to just stop an Aria Flame, and that might be good.
So yeah, now Matt needs to pass the turn, right? Yeah.
Yep, Matt missed his land and won't get to do anything, and we're gonna probably see Faithless Looting used to flip Thing in the Ice because you want to preserve that Thought Scour to have a blue card for Force of Negation.
With the freshly drawn land, though, he could Thought Scour and just play the land and play passively.
That's true. He could just spend 3 mana on it. That's a good point. It looks like he's gonna bin all the lands.
Yeah.
And now you can cast the Thought Scour.
Yeah, just checking if Phoenix shows up, and it did.
Yep, perfect. So now you have to play the Opt as well, but there's nothing really that threatening that Matt can even do on 2 mana, right? There's nothing you need to be super concerned about.
I did, when I saw the deck list, I did wonder if you could play. You have 1 line on a battlefield, then you play what's it called, Lotus Field. Then you play Lotus Field, and then you can just respond with a bunch of twiddles. That works, right?
Yeah, that is possible. It's really tough to go off without casting Pest and Flames to go off that completely.
Yeah.
So I think it makes sense that,
But yeah, Molten Rain on the play. Yeah, that was. We just had a quick Discord call a few hours ago, and Thomas was like, "I think they can be really good on the play," and it just showed this game.
Yeah, they were absolutely phenomenal there. And yeah, Matt, maybe could have played around it, but it's really tough to want to use your one twiddle effect just to stop something that you don't even know if they have.
Matt was even on a mulligan, and throwing away resources like that, I don't think you're benefiting in the long run.
Yeah, it's a really tough call to make. So here Matt has this is not a great hand, But he does have the Lotus Field. He just has to draw another land.
Yeah, and he needs that from his turn 2 draw step or from the reach through mists. And if he doesn't, then he's in bad shape, right? So it's basically the top 2 cards, or he's in bad shape.
Yeah, I think I would still keep in Matt's spot, but
yeah,
it's definitely not the easiest call in the world to make. And Thomas has an Is It Phoenix hand. Could be anything. Depends on what these cantrips turn up.
Yeah. Did Thomas mulligan? Or no, he didn't. Okay.
Nope. Looks like he kept 7.
He just rearranged the hand, and I got a little confused there.
Yeah. And yeah, this is the classic Is It Phoenix draw where if your cantrips turn over good cards, it's going to be great, and most of the time that's what happens, but sometimes could end up poorly.
For sure. Thomas is doing a great job of having the thing in the ice on turn 2, so he's not letting Matt set up forever.
Yeah, that's going to apply a ton of pressure. All right, so Matt's first draw step is an Aria, which will actually be pretty good, I think.
Yeah. Especially since he actually found the Spire Canal.
Yeah, it is. Oh, okay. Spell Pierce can stop the Aria. It is a little awkward that the Lotus Field comes into play tapped.
Yeah.
So I wonder if Matt draws a twiddle effect here, if he would just go for, play the Lotus Field, twiddle it, play Aria next turn, or if he's going to play it a little slower. It'll be interesting.
Thomas is a very conservative player, and it shows here again. He's keeping up his freshly drawn Spell Pierce and basically giving up a turn of a thing in the ice clock in order to. So what is this? A main phase? Peer through depths. Yeah. So
yeah, that's interesting. I mean, it could also be from Thomas's perspective, he might not actually be giving up a thing in the ice turn, right? Because if he might not have been able to flip it on turn 3 anyway.
You're definitely right. He needed a 0-cost spell or Manamorphose to ensure that.
Right. So he might be just planning to play it on turn 3, flip it on turn 4 regardless. And then he didn't really actually give up that much to hold up the Spell Pierce.
You're right.
It'll be interesting to see here if he fires an end of turn cantrip.
Yeah, because that's basically taking a small gamble that the thing in the ice is not going to flip.
Yeah, or just that, you're hoping to find a better interaction, a Force of Negation, something like that.
Yeah, so digging has its merit for sure.
And he found a Phoenix, which is going to be pretty good with this Faithless Looting, although not for a little while, I think, right? He's probably going to still play Thing in the Ice.
I would think that his goal should be to get the thing in the ice onto the table. Then on the same turn where you flip the thing in the ice, you get the Phoenix back, so you can deal 2 times 10 and finish Matt off that way.
Yep, that sounds right to me.
So you're getting the thing down now, and then hoping to do it all next turn.
Yep, and that's exactly what he's going with, leaving up Spell Pierce. Matt is going to just jam with the Aria, presumably, and then if Thomas flips and is tapped out, Matt has a pretty good window to go for it. He's a little tight on mana, but he is going to get to, these Ideas Unbound are functionally free because of the Psychic Puppetry, and he has Pact of Negation to cover, any surgicals or Force of Negations that Thomas happens to draw. So I think Matt's going to have a lot of looks at it.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm not sure whether that'll make him a favorite or not, but it'll be interesting to watch.
And because we know of the Pact of Negation, and Thomas doesn't know about the Pact of Negation, he will be less likely to fire off a sorcery speed surgical.
Right.
It depends on he has enough spells to do whatever.
Yeah, and there's nothing all that juicy in Matt's yard anyway, really.
No.
What is there that you actually want a surgical?
Yeah, definitely.
So he's gonna cast double serum, and
so he basically needs to trap. Is that gonna do anything? I think
that'll be pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say he needs to find a Force of Negation, but trap might do the trick.
Yeah. So now Matt is gonna need to find his own second Pact of Negation, presumably.
How did you feel about Thomas playing Serum Visions over Sleight of Hand there?
I think it makes sense. The Serum Visions digs you for the cards immediately, And then, I don't know if he scried to the top or bottom. He might have known that the trap was on top.
Oh,
then
he
if-
doubled
if
he
he-
doubled zero missioned.
Right. So if he
I-
knew the trap was on top, then it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so that was my point, but I missed the first zero missions.
Right.
If he didn't have the first zero missions, I would have fired off sleight of hand to improve my odds of finding something relevant right now. Okay,
Oh,
so
Thomas is going for the draw step surgical, which I think actually is going to work out really well for Matt, because he didn't really care about surgical. He cares a lot more about keeping this Past in Flames kill available to him, or about Arya. Sorry.
Yeah, so I wonder why Thomas did that, because if Matt plays out, I guess it's because he has the Ravenous Trap and he thinks he has the graveyard covered. I think that's the reason.
Yeah, that must be it. But this is actually just going to be great. Great from my perspective.
Yeah,
Matt's
yeah,
going
yeah.
to get to go Ideas Unbound with Psychic Puppetry twice and just have a ton of cards to see, and have a lot of options to work with.
So if you're Thomas, do you even remove the Aureus from the deck?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think he did.
He did, yeah. I was talking about with perfect information from watching from above.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're probably he has perfect information, right? He knows his hand and he knows Matt's hand.
Yeah. My point is that we have the luxury of sitting here in our comfy chairs and not being in the pressure situation.
Yes, definitely. It's always a tough play to do something sort of unintuitive. Like normally when you use surgical extraction,
You want to get rid of it
you
all.
want the cards to be gone. But
yeah.
I think you're right. In this case, he probably shouldn't have. I didn't even think of that. I would have definitely autopiloted to.
Yeah, and I think I would have too. I just thought about it immediately once you start casting the Ideas Unbound, because you actually want Matt to draw into the expensive enchantment rather than untap effects.
And there's a twiddle that's really big for Matt, because now he gets to puppetry again, and that's going to set up a Past in Flames with a twiddle in the yard. So a good amount of mana, and he's going to get to cast another bunch of Ideas Unbounds. So I think that we're going to see Matt take the match here.
Yeah, it definitely looks like it.
He does have to find the Grape Shot at some point, but he's going to get to dig really, really deep.
Yeah, he's a huge favorite.
So yeah, now he with the 2 Pact of Negations, he knows that the coast is clear to expose yourself to surgical or Ravenous Trap or whatever. It's not a big deal.
Sure.
So
he's not afraid of
firing off
anything.
the puppetries just to untap some, just as +1 mana each. And here goes Past in Flames, which is obviously going to be met with Ravenous Trap, which Matt is going to negate. And now he has totally free reign. Huge built up graveyard, 3 Ideas Unbound in there. Found a Reach Through Miss, which adds some additional mana.
Yeah, I like how this deck came together with the Splice onto Arcane sub theme, taking advantage of the new land from M20. It's just awesome.
Yeah, it's a really wild time, and so a lot of people, I feel like we're talking about Lotus Field in Amulet Titan, and I think this might be actually the better place to use it.
Yeah, it definitely looks promising.
All right, so a couple of Peer Through Depths. I think now Matt can get all the way to the bottom of his deck if he needs to.
Yeah, this is definitely over.
Yeah, and he's got sufficient storm count, and I think he only boarded out 1 Grape Shot. I hope he didn't board out both. That seems like it would be pretty foolish to me, but I suspect Matt did not do that.
Yeah, probably not. When I saw the matchups, I was kind of sad that we didn't have Blood Moon in our sideboard, which is kind of stuck to play. I just like the Molten Rain plus Surgical playing against Tron a lot better.
Yeah, Blood Moon is actually really interesting against this deck because it can be really good, but if you play the Blood Moon before they play the Lotus Field, they can just play the field. It no longer has the drawback, and then they bounce the Blood Moon later, and you get totally hosed.
Sure.
So Matt is continuing to dig, just looking for that grape shot. It'll show up eventually.
Yeah, that's basically what Thomas is waiting for here.
Another Peer Through Depths was his find, so that's another 5 cards deeper that he gets to go. And his hand is now so big that he's having to scroll from one side to the other.
Yeah.
Get the whole thing.
It happens occasionally with a deck like Ad Nauseam as well, where you just have to find the spirit guides, find the lightning storm, stuff like that. Yeah, so that's all Thomas needs to see.
Yep, that'll do it.
So you guys are eating back some of the lead, and now you have it leveled. No, not leveled, but you guys got 2 matches to our 3 matches.
Yep. So we've got Jund against Mardu Death Shadow, a nice fair deck showdown coming up.
Yeah, I always like those matchups. It's always interesting with the discard spells and how do you sideboard. The Shadow deck is a bit more aggressive, where the Jund deck should be favored over a long game. It's always a good time.
It's one of my favorite matchups to play. There's just like both players have so much information and there's just so much going on. It's really fun.
Yeah, so I'll kick back and relax during that match. And thanks Sam for doing the commentary. And we'll be back after the break.
CoolStuffInc.com is your home for everything Magic the Gathering. Need singles for constructed or kitchen table play? Looking to pick up some sealed product or the latest in Magic accessories? We've got you covered with our extensive live inventory. With free shipping on orders of $100 or more, a 25% buy list bonus, and our ever-popular customer rewards program, CoolStuffInc.com is the place for all your Magic the Gathering needs.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Team Modern Super League, ChannelFireball versus Mage Market. The score is currently 3-2 in Mage Market's favor. I'm Matt Nass here with Sam Pardee.
Hello.
And wow, that last match was a doozy.
Yeah, that was the game one. I thought was actually the one that was the most interesting. You chose to keep 2 Past in Flames in your hand when you were discarding 2 Ideas Unbound. It looked like, I assume, because you were scared of Surgical Extraction. I thought your hand wasn't that good and that you couldn't really afford to play around Surgical Extraction, but it worked out in the end.
Yeah, I was struggling, but I kind of tried to evaluate which cards I felt like I would need. And Past in Flames is really powerful, so when you have that, you can kind of rely on the cards in the graveyard to draw you more cards. So I tried to keep as many mana sources as I could while keeping both Past in Flames and kind of discard a bunch of card draw on the grounds that, yeah, like once I cast Past in Flames, I can cast all the card draw. And yeah, it worked out. So
Right. But you didn't yet have the Lotus Field, so you kind of needed to hit there.
Yeah, so I tried to keep the card draw that could dig for Lotus Field and discard the card draw that couldn't, like Peer Through Depths. But
yeah,
it was a tough decision, and I feel really fortunate that I made the right one, or at least the one that worked.
Yeah, and then we were thinking you were going to get destroyed by, he had Surgical in hand and then drew into the Ravenous Trap. But as it turns out, he went for Surgical on the Aria Flame, thinking that he had Ravenous Trap to cover any Past in Flame shenanigans. But as it turns out, you had the Pact of Negation to keep that at bay.
Yeah, I could have pacted the Surgical, but I actually just thinning my deck of Arya actually helped make it easier for me to combo. I kind of wonder if he should have taken the ones from my deck even. It was kind of a funny situation.
Yeah, Andreas actually mentioned that. I didn't even think about it. Like, normally when you cast Surgical, of course you take these cards out of your deck. Yeah. But I think actually that's right, that he probably should have left them in because they don't do anything.
Yeah, so that was a wild one, and we managed to get it to 2-3. We still have to win 2 more in a row to compete the Warriors 3-1 lead blow. But,
yeah, and we have the worst matchup, BK versus literally anybody. So that's gonna be tough.
There is that. Yeah, we have BK on Mardu Death Shadow versus Michael Bonde on Jund. So going to be a mid-range mirror.
Yeah. Yeah. I think these matchups are usually really close. What do you think? How do you think it's going to go?
Well, unfortunately, I think play skill might make the difference.
Well, not looking good for young BK then.
Yeah. So this is one matchup where Tidal Sculler might be a little bit awkward. Jund does have a lot of creature removal, where most modern decks don't these days.
Yeah, that is one of the places where I think you would prefer something a little more resilient, a little better at controlling the tempo of the game. Tidal Sculler doesn't really help you much, and it actually grows Tarmogoyf really big.
Oh yeah, that is also a potential problem. We might see some very large Tarmogoyfs. I mean, Death Shadow can hang with just about anything, but it could be tough. And it looks like the players are ready, so let's head down to the game.
All right, so from BK's side, we have a sort of average hand, a little bit of removal, some hand disruption, no threats just yet, but I don't think the threats are very important in this matchup.
Yeah, I have a feeling we're not going to see many mulligans in this matchup. This is not like normal modern. People are pretty incentivized to just keep anything that's remotely functional.
Right. The important thing is the number of cards, not because they so many of them trade 1 for 1. So it matters a lot more just that you have a bunch of them rather than that you have specific one.
Yeah, and this game's going to be weird because BK is going to Inquisition away Liliana and Tireless Tracker, and then it will be an Abrupt Decay and an Assassin's Trophy versus a Fatal Push and an Unearth. So neither player may be doing much of anything depending on the top decks.
Right, and a Death Shadow drawn doesn't really change things. BK1 can't even get it into play for a while. And also, like you said, there's an Abrupt Decay and an Assassin's Trophy facing it down. It seems like Ranger Captain of Eos is probably the card that BK is most hoping to draw, I would guess.
Yeah, and even turn 1 was kind of interesting for BK. He could have played Silent Clearing to kind of accelerate the Death Shadow potentially, but because of how much removal Jund has, you kind of want to actually prioritize your life total a little bit. BK is not going to be as all in on just going as low as possible.
Right, the first Death Shadow is not that likely to live anyway, and a Fatal Push picked up makes that even more of a basically a sure thing. Oh, and there's the best possible draw from BK. I like to see that.
Yeah, especially in conjunction with Unearth. Knight Captain is exactly what you want in this matchup. It's
He's
a 2
actually
for
just
1.
a Ranger Captain. He's not a Knight yet.
Oh, Ranger Captain. Excuse me very much. But same idea. It's going to be a lot of value and going to get Unearthed back.
Yeah.
So what happens now? I guess Bondi really needs to draw a discard spell to get. Even a discard doesn't really work because of Unearth. So the Ranger Captain is going to get the value. There's no
he
real
might
way
even
of
get
avoiding
promoted
it.
to a Knight by the end of the evening. We'll see.
Yeah, if he keeps putting up good numbers, I think is Knight a promotion from Ranger? I assume so.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, we'll assume.
See,
I would say Knight Captain is a weaker card, so there is that. Ooh, that's probably a good draw.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say. I think what Bondi actually wants to draw here is a Planeswalker of some kind that is immune to BK's removal spells and, creates value over time in a way that is pretty meaningful.
Yeah, BK has basically no way to interact with Planeswalkers. Doesn't even, except creature attacking, doesn't even have Lightning Bolt. So.
And here we see BK just take some damage for no reason. That's sort of the Death Shadow motto, right? You just let yourself take some damage. It's not a big deal. And he's doing that, of course, so that next turn when he taps the Silent Clearing, he'll be at 12 and can actually cast Death Shadows.
Yeah, it's not optimal, though, because that'll still leave him the Death Shadows in Ren and 6 range. I wonder if playing Silent Clearing one turn earlier could have made a difference.
Yeah, if he was at one less life, that would probably be good. I mean, maybe he'll get to attack Ren and 6 with the Ranger Captain. Do you think that? I guess Bondi just has to kill it. He'll probably just Fatal Push it now, even.
Yeah, I think so. Oh, chooses not to.
Yeah, I mean, he's got so much removal, maybe he can just Abrupt Decay it, and that's also fine.
Yeah, just has to decide which removal spell to use.
The upside,
can also just deploy 3 Death Shadows, which is enough that maybe Ren and 6 taking out 1 will still kind of overwork his removal.
Well, and their Arid Mesa means that Ren and 6 actually can't take out any.
Yeah, that was a good draw for BK.
So we're going to see BK go to combat first, of course, because why not? No reason to do that. And then he's actually going to get to kind of mana short Bondi here as well, because he's going to sack the Ranger Captain in response to a removal spell and, force make it so that he can't play these other cards, which means actually using... Oh, he didn't sack it. I don't like that.
Yeah, so the good news for BK, though, is that he will be playing 4 cards this turn, which is kind of wild.
He's going to get to Unearth Ranger Captain and then play 3 Death Shadows. Does he actually want to do that? Is that not overcommitting into a potential Maelstrom Pulse that could have been drawn?
Yeah, you could. One thing you could do is tutor up Hex Parasite here and then go Death Shadow, Hex. I guess that doesn't work against Ren and 6.
Hex Parasite just seems so mopey. It doesn't really do anything. He did go for it.
Okay.
So maybe he's just going to try to use that to threaten Ren and 6 later on.
Yeah. And it looks like Bondi only has 1 Maelstrom Pulse in his list, so I think it's pretty reasonable to not play around it.
Yeah,
but I do agree that this Abrupt Decay should not be castable right now.
Yeah, he could have... Oh, wow!
Oh, the Pulse off the top! Well, that might make him regret casting the Abrupt Decay, but I think Bondi is just fine with that draw regardless.
Yeah, that is rough. So BK is going to be able to actually use Hex Parasite here to keep Ren and 6 off of ultimating, at least.
Yeah, so Bondi has to cast Trophy here, right? And then after he casts Trophy, Parasite can nug Ren and 6 for 4 loyalty. But
not 4. Oh, because he'll get a land, sure.
Yeah, but it's still a bit of an uphill battle.
Yeah, this is going to be tough. I guess BK can also attack now, get Trophy, then play Tide Hollow, take the last Trophy, and then just pass and have a Tide Hollow that can threaten Ren and 6. It's a little bit risky, but it's probably worth doing.
Yeah. I think that is probably the best play, even though it's not optimal.
Yeah, it doesn't use his mana all that well. He's leaving the Silent Clearing around, it looks like, to be able to use... Oh, nope, he's not. Okay. Drew a Fatal Push, not very useful. Okay, so he could double Renin 6 the Tide Hollow Sculler, but that leaves you with a Renin 6 that just dies to Hex Parasite immediately, so that doesn't seem very good.
You can't do that. You have to just plus Renin 6 here, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right.
I also wonder about BK sacking Silent Clearing, because if Bondi pluses, then if BK draws a land, he can go Parasite and Nug Renin 6 for 5, killing it. So there was some upside in saving the clearing too, but BK wanted to draw a card to try to apply more pressure, which you can't blame him for. If he drew an Unearth or something, it would just be insane.
Yeah, an Unearth or a Death Shadow. Oh, and Bondi is going to go with the double Renin 6, it looks like. I wonder if he's running out of fetchable lands at this point as well.
Yeah, and that makes the plus a lot lower value.
Right. And this will let BK go Hex Parasite, kill Renin 6, and then, it'll be Hex Parasite and 2 Fatal Pushes against an Assassin's Trophy and a Swamp, which is really going to just come down to who top decks better, I think, at that point.
Yeah, do you think it matters that BK's deck is a little thin of threats?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of BK's better draws would be a Death Shadow, but he just doesn't have it, only has one left in his deck. So Ranger Captain is probably still his best draw.
Yeah, Ranger Captain and Unearth is what he's looking for.
Yeah.
Bondi is looking for Bloodbraid Elf, probably the best card.
Yeah, Liliana just immediately dies to Hex Parasite, although I guess you can Assassin's Trophy first. That's not that good.
Yeah. Yeah, Liliana and Ren are decent because you just trophy first. But yeah, Bloodbraid, Tarmogoyf. Well, Tarmogoyf's not that good because of all the pushes. So yeah, it probably is Bloodbraid that's the best draw.
Yep, I think so. Raging Ravine's not bad. I mean, I guess it just dies to a push, so it's...
Yeah, it's not really anything.
Oh, and there's Unearth.
There it is.
Awesome. Good draw for BK. Really nice. He's going to attack first. And then Unearth the Ranger Captain, get that last Death Shadow out of the deck.
And BK can actually represent lethal here because he does still have that Parasite that can control his life total.
Yeah, he knows about an Assassin's Trophy, so he's definitely not going to go for it, but he's not even going to play the Death Shadow. I wonder what that's about. He's just trying to force the Assassin's Trophy. Maybe he's hoping to draw an Inquisition or Thoughtseize before he employs it.
Yeah, it's not crazy.
And Bondi booting up the Raging Ravine, doesn't really have anything else to do. This way, frees up his mana on later turns. Oh, maybe not.
Might be better to force BK's hand by trying to block with the Raging Ravine.
Sure, that makes sense. I think, I think it would be good to attack because it makes future Renin 6s great draws. That would be my thought process there. But I guess if you're just going to block with it, that also makes future Renin 6s into great draws.
Yeah, it's going to be the same thing, and this just kind of forces the hand a bit more.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think this is a really good play. Not that BK would have taken 4 anyway. But...
Yeah, going to be the same result, but a more kind of a safer player, a more guaranteed play. I don't know what the right.
Yeah. And I assume we're going to see BK crack the bauble here during Michael's upkeep, probably.
Yeah, funnily enough, if Bondi wants to hide his card, he could crack Verdant Catacombs after BK baubles, but I don't know how much he cares about concealing information. He's pretty likely to just play whatever he draws if it's a relevant card.
Yeah, I mean, I think he doesn't want to crack the Catacombs at all here because that puts him at 8, which is 2 hits from Parasite plus Ranger Captain.
Right. Yeah, there's also Tireless Tracker considerations.
Yeah, absolutely.
And BK's patience paid off.
Yeah, Sculler is going to work out really well here. I think the Sculler will force Michael to play the Assassin's Trophy, and then the Death Shadow can come down pretty safely.
I assume the trophy just hits Ranger Captain. It's just the biggest creature.
He's hitting the Sculler. Not sure why. It doesn't matter a ton, I guess. But yeah, Ranger Captain does seem moderately better. And there's a Death Shadow. And it really, I think, leaves Michael with no outs. And there we go. BK up a game.
Yeah, I was a little concerned when they were in top deck mode that BK was less threat dense for the top deck war, but managed to find the unearth that was super clutch and took the game with it.
Yep, that was huge. And so what are we expecting in the sideboard? Probably just sort of bring in the additional removal and all the grindy cards. We see BK bring in Kolaghan's Command, 2 Planeswalkers, Celestial Purge, which handles all the Planeswalkers, and Bondi, it looks like, has a Nissa.
Yeah, the Nissa is spicy.
Yeah, Nissa seems fantastic. It represents a ton of hasty damage potentially, as well as just a way to recur threats in a long game. Could buy back a Blade Elf for some lines, and that's pretty big.
Yeah, there's Nile, but Graveyard Hate actually isn't that good against this version of Death Shadow. It does not have. It has 2 unearths that are cyclable into a Nihil anyway, and then just 1 Gurmag Angler. So Nile's not going to be as good as usual against Death Shadow.
Yeah, I mean, just cycling is not too bad, right?
Yeah, I'd probably have it in my deck just because the cost of a cycling card in a grindy matchup is so low.
And we see
BK boarded out Parasite.
Yeah, the MVP of the previous game. It does just seem too bad against Ren and 6, probably the lead.
Yeah, it can be good against Ren and 6 when you use it to remove the counters, but in general, it is pretty awkward.
So Bondi looks like he has a pretty clear keep to me. The Scavenging Ooze isn't going to be amazing with Green Source, but that's not that big a deal. What do you think about BK's hand?
I hate to say it, but I'd keep it. It's the nature of this matchup. BK's on the draw, so he has a bauble, so he has time to draw that second land, and I'm just so reluctant to mulligan in this matchup.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, but it looks like that one was below his standards, even low as they may be.
Wow, BK standards are higher than ours. What does that say about us?
Nothing good. I can promise you that.
Yeah, it's ugly.
And
But this one does look solid. 2 discards with Death Shadow and Sculler.
Yeah, I wonder, do you think he takes the Ooze here, or do you think he takes Liliana Nissa with his 2-hand disruption spells? Because Ooze doesn't represent that much of a threat, really.
Yeah, I would be inclined to ignore the Ooze. You can path it if push comes to shove, and you can just ignore it.
Yeah,
and as long as there's no creatures,
command that could kill it.
Yeah, as long as no creatures hit the graveyard, it will have 2 toughness, and it will be commandable.
So it looks like BK agrees, because if he was going to take the Ooze, he would have to take it now because next turn.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
looks like that's how he feels as well.
Yeah, he does seem to agree. You could also not take the Nissa and just take Maelstrom Pulse or something on the grounds that Bondi still needs another green and 2 more lands to play Nissa.
Yeah, and looks like that's what we're going to see now that the Inquisition was drawn. Presumably that's going to take away Maelstrom Pulse with the hopes of... I think Thoughtseize is still going to take Nissa just because it's so much more threatening.
And
Ren 6 guarantees that it'll show up on time.
Yeah, that was probably the best card for Michael to draw.
Yeah, I think maybe Liliana would have been the only thing that would be better.
So how does BK get out of this now? Is it Purge plus land off the top that gets you out of this?
I mean, he has a little while to answer the Ren and 6, right? It's not an immediate threat, and he can use Kolaghan's Command to keep it under wraps for a turn if he needs.
Yeah, the ultimate's at 7, so that's kind of a ways. So if you go Thoughtseize, fetch for Blood Crypt, you're still at exactly 13, unfortunately. So can't play Death Shadow this turn.
And Bondi chose not to attack with Scavenging Ooze, worth noting.
Yeah, otherwise BK would be able to play Death Shadow, so probably a wise choice.
Yeah, I mean BK probably wouldn't into the Lightning Bolt, but it is definitely good to notice. All right, a land the draw. That doesn't really help when you have Ren and 6. You kind of don't really want to draw fetch lands at all. And we'll see if he decides to attack this turn or if he declines again. Yep, declining again. BK declining to path is rewarded actually with a fatal push. That's pretty nice.
So given that the Ooze is just sitting in play and doing absolutely nothing, is there any chance you like fetch for Blood Crypt and just play Sculler here to trade with a Bolt so that like next turn if you get like a shock or something, you can play Death Shadow? and not fear the bolt.
That sounds reasonable to me. It also, starts to pressure Ren and 6. Because
the one downside is that you're putting the creature into the graveyard.
Yeah, you do grow the ooze a little bit, but given that you have a fatal push, it's not that big a deal, right?
Yeah, that doesn't seem like a huge problem. Yeah, I like this play from BK.
Yeah, I guess the other thing it does is it means you aren't going to get to rebuy it with Kolaghan's Command, which might end up mad.
Yeah, there is that. Yeah, you could use the discard mode on Kolaghan's Command, or if the Death Shadow dies, there's that.
Ooh, and Nurturing Peatland really increases the importance of BK answering this Ren and 6 in a timely fashion, I would say. It just means that, now instead of drawing a land that you put into play every turn, it's drawing a card that he gets to draw every turn, which is much more threatening.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a big threat.
And he's now, not that far off from the ultimate, which would also pretty much just be game over.
Yeah, casting Bolt with Retrace is pretty disgusting.
So what are we going to see from BK here? Cycle Unearth, do you think? Or nope, just pass.
Well, that might be an end step Cycle Unearth.
Sure. You don't get to play the land then if you draw one.
Yeah,
if he cycles Unearth into a fetch land, he could have played Death Shadow.
Yeah, you have to cycle main phase if you're playing a cycle. So push path must be what BK is planning.
Yep. But these Plague Engineers are going to do a really good job of blocking for Ren and 6. So that might actually change things for BK. He might now decide to cycle Unearth because he needs to find a Celestial.
Insect is Hex Parasite's creature type, I assume?
Yes, I believe it is. So there's Ranger Captain, a second Ranger Captain, and that'll do it. Ren and 6 going to ultimate, and definitely enough for lethal bolts, considering the attack that could also be made.
Yeah, and Ren and 6 completely carried that game. Definitely one of the more powerful new additions for the Jund deck.
So BK just resubmits, still leaving the Teamer Battle Rages in his sideboard because, as they say, there are no laws when you're on the claws. And it looks like Bonde also just resubmitted.
Yeah, sometimes there are play draw differences, but in grindy matchups like this, they aren't usually as big, so not surprised to see both players submit.
Yep. And BK looks like he has a great hand here. Gideon is really, really good.
Yeah, especially because BK will get to strip the pulse with Inquisition. And Bonde's hand is the exact type of hand that you wouldn't keep in most matchups, but keep in these grindy mirrors.
Yep. And BK gets to use Mishra's Bauble there as a pseudo scry one. He gets to look at the top card, see that it's good, not shuffle it away with the Bloodstained Mire, and just play Godless Shrine instead.
Yeah, definitely likes what he sees. Yeah, Silent Clearing seems good, given that he needs to get up to 4 for Gideon.
Yep, that seems like exactly the kind of card he wants.
Silent Clearing is actually the ideal land to cast Gideon with because the Death Shadow deck generally functions on less than 4 mana, but you need to get up to 4 for Gideon. So that's a good way to get up to 4 and then cash it in once you've cast the Gideon.
Yep, makes a lot of sense. And we're seeing Bondi end step cycle the Baron more, looking for a Planeswalker, presumably, a Tarmogoyf or whatever, not really going to be that good against all these fatal pushes.
Yeah, both players seem to have more than enough removal, so it's kind of a question of sticking Planeswalkers and figuring out how to maneuver that way as opposed to trying to get creatures going. I guess they just didn't have really enough cards to bring in to really board out any creature removal. And it's not like it's that bad, so.
Yeah, I mean, Lightning Bolt hits face, and the Death Shadow deck often gets pretty low, and Bloodbraid Elf and stuff can add a bunch of hasty damage. So I think all that is pretty good stuff to keep in your deck. It's just you don't really prioritize it. It's not a big part of your game plan. And we're gonna see BK not crack the bauble here because he doesn't want to get whatever he draws potentially thought seized.
Yeah, the other
really matter if he fetches now or later.
Yeah, the other big thing here is if Michael casts a Thoughtseize on Gideon, the cards that BK is looking for will be very different. Because right now he's looking for a land, but if that Gideon were gone, he would be looking for spell.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's absolutely true. So it looks like we're going to see Gideon come down here. and BK will be at 9 after that's all said and done. And he's gonna get to untap with it probably. Michael can bolt it, but that doesn't kill it. And these 2/2s are gonna add up. This is the kind of incremental advantage that these matchups are really based around.
And Abrupt Decay does not kill 4-cost permanents, so
yeah, that is true.
What do you think about the Nissa versus Gideon matchup? Who's going to be which Planeswalker is favored here?
I would think the one that came into play first. That's kind of my guess. And
yeah,
that was Gideon.
That is the golden rule of Planeswalker fights, I suppose.
So do you think BK is supposed to just make a knight here, or should he do something like plus?
I think you just want to put as much stuff into play as possible and try to kind of get a bigger board position. I think the life totals matter less than who's advantaged on board. I don't think Michael's very likely to run out of life. If anyone runs out of life in this matchup, it's going to be BK.
Yep, that sounds correct to me. And BK, I think, is tanking here over whether to play the Ranger Captain or just play Death Shadow and leave up Path. I think the Ranger Captain has some risk in that if Michael goes like end of turn, kill a couple creatures, then Bloodbraid cascades into something good, he could maybe attack Gideon pretty effectively. Oh, and BK is going to plus Gideon to try to shorten the clock.
Yeah, interesting. Even like push Decay Bolt could kill the Gideon potentially.
Right. So now I think BK really has to just play the Death Shadow, not play the Ranger Captain.
Yeah.
Leave up these
absolutely.
paths as ways to deal with a potential Bloodbraid Elf.
Or Nissa, as it turns out.
Yeah. And Nissa can only rebuy permanent cards, so it cannot get back the Maelstrom Pulse to deal with Gideon. So not a lot of value to be had from that ability. So I think Nissa's actually going to do very little, as it turns out.
Yeah, so it's probably just going to make an elemental, right?
Yeah, I guess it actually will get to make 2, right? Because it goes to 6.
It goes to 6.
Gideon can only attack it for 5. So good job of Michael clearing up the board here. Draws a Kolaghan's Command, which is okay, but not really gonna get used this turn. Maybe can clean up a knight or something next turn.
Is there any chance that BK just goes face with the Gideon next turn?
It's possible. With another path available to him, it would make total sense.
The Knight Captain also pretty meaningful here because Gideon knocks Michael to 2, and then Knight Captain is also a lethal threat.
Do you think he's now earned the promotion to Knight Captain?
Oh yes, that's
good to know.
Exactly why
wow,
I said that.
Sculler. I think he's still probably just Ranger Captain. Well, because also if you plus Gideon, it doesn't even die to a Nissa attack.
That is big. BK needs to consider that he could also get burnt out if Nissa token hits for 5 and a bolt comes in, but
yeah,
if he scullers, then it would only be a top decked thing there, and he's probably in a path with the animated land regardless.
Well, he might play Ranger Captain and Death Shadow, but that also makes it hard for a bolt to kill you because like then they have to kill your thing, and they have to kill a lot of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, this is tough. I think I kind of like Ranger Captain Death Shadow.
Yeah, I think that's what I would do as well.
Well then if the elemental attacks, you have to trade for it with Death Shadow. True.
Why?
Because otherwise you're going to 3 and dying to bolt.
Sure, you could just silence them.
But then they can upkeep
the Ranger
bolt
Captain.
you.
Yeah, I guess that's true. They can just upkeep bolt you. Yeah, but that's not that big a deal, right? This
trading might be fine.
Some lethal threats, and trading doesn't seem so bad. And I think BK has the check mark now, right? The Nissa can activate a land. I guess he can draw a card with Nurturing Peatland. That might be the main way
out. Assuming Michael uses the cards he currently has available, he pushes Death Shadow, animates a land, plays Ooze and passes. then BK will just path one of the blockers and go for the kill.
Right.
And Michael gaining life with Ooze doesn't matter because he'll only go to 3. Oh, no. If Michael plays Ooze, then uses Nissa untapping Overgrown Tomb, he can actually go to 4.
Oh, sure. Yep, that sounds right.
So there is a way for Michael to survive if he sees it. And if he goes for it, which neither is trivial.
Yeah, it's not the easiest play in the world to make. I assume there are enough creatures also. Yeah, there's a Street Wraith in BKs and a Scavenger in Michael's.
Yeah, as well as a Death Shadow and BKs and probably some other stuff we missed.
Yeah.
So what happens then? Then are we in a top deck war again? I think Nissa.
No, BK will still have a Gideon.
Yeah, but Michael will still have a Nissa, right? So it's kind of interesting.
But Gideon becomes lethal pretty darn quick.
Well, yeah, every Gideon token is. I guess right now, not every Gideon token will be lethal, but at some.
Well, Michael's going to be at 1 also, right? The Ranger Captain still gets to attack.
Yes. Oh, okay. So Michael is going to have to chump block.
He has to chump the Gideon.
Or yeah, okay, yeah. So Michael's going to be in a pretty tough spot, actually.
Yeah. So Michael did see the line to survive. I mean, a bolt off the top might be enough to do it, right?
Yeah, I guess.
BK will have Sculler, but it's pretty tough to make the chump block with it.
Yeah, this is such a weird game.
So he Scullers, that forces the Fatal Push out of Michael's hand on the Death Shadow.
Could he hypothetically choose to take nothing with Scholar?
No.
That's not how the rules work, right? Because if he could, he might, right?
Why?
Because then he could Thoughtseize away the Kolagun's command, and then he'd feel more comfortable chump blocking with Scholar.
Yeah,
it's kind of weird.
That is interesting. I hadn't really thought about that, but no, that's not how the rules.
So BK maybe should have led with Thoughtseize, but then going to 6 and you just get like, I guess he couldn't get double bolted right now. This is a crazy game. Crazy game.
Yeah. So BK also doesn't have to use the path, right? He could just plus Gideon and attack with it and just save the path for later.
It seems like using the path, forcing him to chump and knocking him to 1 is pretty appealing.
Yeah, I think it's probably the right thing to do.
It's not mandatory, no.
He could also, rather than attacking with the Gideon, force him to chump by. Oh wait, this is just lethal. Actually, we missed it because he passed the Ooze.
Oh yes.
He now has to make a choice, and
yes.
Okay. BK, outplayed our poor commentary skills.
Yes,
I'll give him credit where credit is due.
In fact, lethal. The Peatland 2 tilting.
Yep. Well played by BK. Shocking played, I would say.
Yeah, I forgot that the Overgrown Tomb could make the mana for the Ooze. But that'll do it. Well played by BK. Well played by Michael as well. Really close one.
Some tight games, and BK gets it 2-1 and forces a game 7, so I get to go back in and hopefully do a little better with Hogak than I did last time.
Yeah, so you have Hogak versus Hardened Scales. How do you feel about that match?
I think it's fine. The Hogak deck, if the explosive draws happen, it's great. Hardened Scales has the nasty combination of Grafdigger's Cage and Welding Jar, so hopefully I can beat that. We'll see.
Yeah, my hope is that you get caged, but then just play a turn 2 Hogak anyway. Just because you naturally draw 1.
Definitely part of the range.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens in match 7. Pretty excited to be there. And can we win from being down 3-1? What do you think?
I think so.
All right. We'll be back right after this break.
CoolStuffInc.com is your home for everything Magic the Gathering. Need singles for constructed or kitchen table play? Looking to pick up some sealed product or the latest in Magic accessories? We've got you covered with our extensive live inventory. With free shipping on orders of $100 or more, a 25% buy list bonus, and our ever-popular customer rewards program, CoolStuffInc.com is the place for all your Magic the Gathering needs.
Hello and welcome back. I'm Randy Bueller, joined by the victorious Andrew Beckstrom. You got to be feeling pretty good, BK.
That was a tough one. It was really close. I mean, game 3 was really hard to play. I basically made a read in game 3 that I thought there was a decent chance that Nissa Vital Force was in my opponent's hand.
Oh, nice.
It wasn't really based on like anything in particular. It was more just I was very ahead in the game. My opponent wasn't doing anything with 3 and 4 mana. What spells could they plausibly have that would cause me problematic? And I saw they had Nissa Vital Force in game 2. And so I took an unconventional line of not playing Ranger Captain and tapping out for Death's Shadow, but holding up Path to Exile to protect my Gideon.
Makes sense. And your teammates doing the commentary did not find the winning line at the end of that third game. You found it. Hats off to you, sir.
Yeah, it involved Pain lands needing to get tapped and Creature lands needing to get tapped for scavenging use. So it was kind of weird.
Precisely. Now, would you say that your teammates are supportive of you? Because
I mean, it's kind of par. It's kind of par for the house. I mean, as soon as Matt Nass finished up his match, he's feeling all good about himself, and then me and Sam come in and tell him about the 3 different things we would have done differently.
Yeah. No, it was hilarious. The one game, you got your Ranger Captain killed and did not sack as a response, which led him Abrupt Decay.
Yeah,
there was much discussion of that in the chat. I think you just knew he was going to draw the Maelstrom Pulse, and you actually got an extra Abrupt Decay out of his hand because he used 2 cards to kill 3 Death Shadows instead of only the 1.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, sometimes it's easy to just let a Ranger Captain go, figuring like, well, most of their cards are instants. But yeah, that was a little bit loose.
Now, though, we get the best 2 words in esports. Game 7. Sorry,
yeah,
enough with the 3-1. Enough with the 3-1 comeback metaphors. It is a 3-1 comeback. Can't imagine somebody blowing a 3-1 lead, but it could happen tonight. Yeah, we get I guess it's match 7, not game 7. Maybe the analogy doesn't work. Yeah, it's quite the comeback, though.
Yeah, and on my side, I feel good about where we're at in the sense of there's not many people in the world I'd rather have playing this format than Sam Pardee. And there's really no deck I'd rather him be on than Hogak, a deck that he's played a ton of going back to pre-banning and then really being a champion of it. I mean, I remember Sam and I have conversations walking to work each day, and when they banned Ridge from Low, he was like, I don't think that's going to be enough. And sure enough.
Now, he's already lost once with the Hogak deck, though. And it was 0-2, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was bad. He lost badly, but it was mostly due to his deck just being non-functional. I mean, there is an RNG component to the deck. You can mulligan and have Faithless Looting and Citrus Supplier in your opening hand, and then if the next 7 cards have no Vengevines and Hogaks, well, you're kind of out of luck.
I did find it kind of ironic that you guys were 2-1 with the Brews, but 0-2 with the real decks. Now, you came back with Death Shadow, and now you're up to 1-2 with the real decks. Just got to go 500 with real decks. Just got to go 500 with Hogak. That shouldn't be that hard, right?
Yeah, I mean, you would think so.
It's going to be crazy if you guys lose because you 0-2'd with Hogak after winning with crazy core tappers and free the reals and whatever it was. I guess it's the free the real deck that lost. The Twiddle Storm deck is the other one.
Well, Hogak didn't make much of an appearance in the first time we saw it, and it's going to be important here. Traditionally, last year when we were testing for the Modern PT, Hardened Scales matched up quite well against the Bridgevine decks because cards like Arcbound Worker and Hangerback Walker did such a good job of blocking all the threats the Bridgevine deck could put out. But Hogak's another animal. Trample is on that card, and it matters a big deal in this matchup.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So you like the Hogak side of, I mean, not just because it's Hogak, but in the matchup specifically.
Yeah, I like our side, and mostly I like our side just because Sam's played a ton of Hardened Scales and played a ton of Hogak. There's not really going to be any tricks getting by him.
Yeah, all right, our players are ready. Let's go see what happens. All right, Sam with the Hogak deck. He's got a couple of Carrion Feeders. What is that? One land?
I don't believe you can do this. So many of your best draws involve like actually doing 2 things, like to bring back Vengevine.
Right, yeah, so he does cash it in. This one, it's got Faithless Looting.
Yeah, this is great.
It's better. It's good, actively good, isn't it?
Yeah, he gets guaranteed bring back both Bloodghast and Vengevine on turn 2, and Stitcher Supplier is going to knock over a couple more cards. Faithless Looting will knock over a couple more cards. Any Hogaks and Vengevines will come back along with that bunch.
Meanwhile, what do you think of Thomas's draw?
Boy, I've been in this spot a lot of times. it's really tough to mulligan Hardened Scales draws that have Arcbound Ravager. It's probably the best card in the deck. It's probably even better than Hardened Scales. He's got the awkward part of having to Ancient Stirrings for a land, but I would still do it if I were him.
Yeah, he does keep. Yeah, that Mox Opal's not getting turned on right away, that's for sure.
No,
Sam.
it's not. Yeah, it is not one of the better Mox Opal decks.
Sam on the play does lead with the Faithless Looting.
Keeping his tradition tonight of only Faithless Looting into more lands.
Seriously, he's like 8 for 8 drawing lands with that card. I think there was maybe he's drawn 10 cards and 8 of them were lands. It's been crazy.
Oh wow! Look at this decision that Thomas has. He draws the turn 1 Hardened Scales. Does he play it and hope that he rips the turn 2 land, or does he just Ancient Stirrings? I would Ancient Stirrings if I were him.
I mean, you can Ancient Stirrings on turn 2.
But then I guess you won't totally burn the mana, because even if you hit the land then, you can still play an animation module.
Right, which starts getting you toward your Mox Opal. I don't know. I think I Harden Scales.
Yeah.
You're playing against Hogak. You're on the draw. Don't you need to play to get lucky?
I would think so. Oh, wow. He's eyeing animation module, or maybe that's just where his mouse is resting.
At least looking at the Ancient Stirrings.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, totally defensible. I think this fork is interesting, like you said.
Yeah, Sam doesn't have a ton of game 1 removal. He's got some lightning axes, but
no, it was the animation module.
Wow, so what he must have some line involving like hoping Ancient Stirrings into
Hogak.
We see Hogak, and Sam's actually going to need some help here in the sense of a bunch of the cards he's flipped over are graveyard cards. So will he be able to convoke without exiling stuff?
He spilled another Hogak.
Oh, interesting. Sam didn't feel like he needed to play the fetch land. Does he still have? He must have the goods as far as convoking. Yeah, he could still just convoke the whole yard. He does lose a Faithless Looting in this exchange.
Yeah,
but he does have a ton of stuff in play.
You're right, though, that he didn't play the fetch land. He played basic swamp there.
Yeah,
I'm with you. It seems like you can keep one card in your yard by cracking the fetch land, but I certainly defer to Sam there.
Yeah, I mean, maybe Sam's perspective is, this is what I got, this is what's coming, it's going to get there in a couple of turns. The only thing that can go wrong is I fetch Shock, because there's only one basic swamp in the deck, and he already drew.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it was 3 damage, not 1 damage.
Yes.
Yeah, taking 3 damage there, and all of a sudden there's like, Ravager creates some big... Yeah.
And it's not like he really has outs to put anything more into play on the following turn. Any Blood Gas or Vengevines he flips over wouldn't come back until 2 turns from now.
Now it's turn 2 Ancient Stirrings. Still hasn't found the land. Does find a land. Phyrexia's Core.
So funny enough, this matchup happened at the recent Mythic Championship, and a big feature of that was, I believe, the first 4 games, if not all 5 games, went to the player on the play. And we could see just breaking serve. This is a very fine draw from Thomas. He's got Hardened Scales plus Ravager next turn, but I think it's going to be short. You never want to...
He's got Hardened Scales plus Ravager if he gets a turn 3. I mean, he's going to get one, but just barely.
Yeah, you never want to count it out, because, man, he's going to be able to do a lot of work if he can... he's going to have a tough time getting the Ballista, Ravager, and Hardened Scales all down.
He's also being attacked for 15.
Yeah. Fortunately... Yeah, he's still going to drop a lot. He can chump the Vengevine with the... Yeah, this is tough. Wow, he just takes it all. He's dropping to 1. So he'll need to next turn put 3 blockers in front of the other creatures and 8 in front of the Hogak. Mox Opal's one of the better draws in that it represents another mana source that's also an artifact.
Sure. Here's the Hardened Scales.
Is there any chance he can sack up here? He might have it. He's going to be able to do a lot of damage this turn.
Sam's decision not to crack that fetch land looking very smart.
It's really smart. Yeah. So you just have to play Ravager, then you sack Opal. That'll bring Ravager up to 4 counters. Then you play another Opal. You can tap and sack that Opal, bringing you up to 6 counters. You'll get to make a servo from the module. Sacking, that'll put you up to 8. Sacking the module put you up to 10. The servo, the worker is, I think he's a couple short.
It looks like he's short approximately the 3 that Sam didn't pay.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, this math is complicated because there's all sorts of tricks once you're sacking modular creatures. Each time you're moving that counter around, say from Arcbound Worker to Ravager onto the servo, you're picking up a counter along the way thanks to hardened scales. And the only other possibility is there any chance that Thomas can get 3 blockers and get Ravager up to 9? You know, he might be able to. He might be able to do that. Actually, he totally can.
Doesn't he?
I actually think if Thomas sees it, I think Thomas has this.
Because you think he can survive the next turn's attack?
Yeah, it should be. He should have plenty of artifacts in play to get.
I mean, he actually needs 4 blockers, right?
I'm counting the Ravager blocking, yes. But I believe with the use of sacrificing floating mana with Mox Opal and sacrificing it to Arcbound Ravager, that'll trigger animation module, allowing him to make another servo. That gives him the critical 4th blocker.
Right.
And then now we're talking Ravagers at 6. He puts the other 3 creatures on the 3 non-Hogak creatures. If he sacks them all to Arcbound Ravager, I believe that gets Ravager up to like a 12. And then what we're talking about is Ravager gets to get in, and then Ballista will do the work the rest of the way.
I don't see a flaw in your plan.
Yeah,
I guess Sam drawing a blocker is the flaw in your plan, but Ravager Ballista is pretty close to lethal all by itself in that world.
Yep. And you will see Sam recognize the possibility for what's about to happen here. He will kind of put Thomas to the test in that sense. He will not just make like crazy attacks into a board like this for no good reason.
Yeah, Thomas can do all that at instant speed. Draws Gravecrawler, can't block.
Yeah. So
that's right. So Sam can see. Thomas has figured out that he can survive an attack, and Sam can see that Thomas can survive an attack. They're both good enough at both of these decks to see all of this. So what is Sam's response? He can't go all in on an attack. Well, I guess he doesn't know about the Ballista. We have some information that Sam doesn't have.
Correct.
The Ballista definitely changes it.
The only thing that Sam is going to recognize the spot he's in. And the spot he's in is he cannot successfully attack and kill, assuming Thomas plays straight up. Yeah. Now, he could try to make an attack that would force Thomas to make the correct play, but Sam's going to probably have enough respect for Thomas. So if we rule that out as a possibility, the next line is, can I make an attack with Hogak, which will force enough action from Thomas such that Stitcher Supplier and Vengevine remaining back as blockers will allow me to be able to stop Thomas from getting in enough damage with Ravager. The real question is, can Thomas successfully get 17 counters onto Ballista, or will he need combat damage on the next turn in order to finish Sam off, plus the Ballista triggers?
Right. Plus, Sam doesn't know about Ballista. I mean, I'm sure it's a card he would prefer to play around if he can, but he doesn't know it's there. So at some level, Sam needs to not take 17.
Yeah, and it's going to be... Yeah.
A couple of blockers can guarantee that, but...
So Sam is going to hope that Thomas misses something. Doesn't think he's going to be able to get through the next turn, which makes sense. Module, Hardened Scales, Ravager plus Mana Sources is a tremendous combo. For every time you sacrifice a servo, you get to spend a mana, get 2 counters on Ravager, and you're at the same spot with a servo again. So Thomas kind of disguising he knows the situation well by not making the servo until the last possible second, giving Sam hope that this attack will work. Now that Sam's made the attack, we make the 4th blocker, kind of locking Sam out of the game.
Sam does get to skill a Stitcher Supplier here, right? Could flip something relevant in theory.
Yeah, I think Thomas is going to sacrifice the worker, so I don't believe the Stitcher Supplier is going to die. And it's true. Stitcher Supplier dying would be one of Sam's better outs, because if flipping over things like Vengevines and Gravecrawlers could allow him to go like cast 2 Gravecrawlers, bring back maybe Vengevines if I flip over the perfect cards.
Yeah, I also think part of Sam's plan is, well, I can't beat Ballista, but I think he can beat the board? Or does this Ravager actually get all the way to 17?
The Ravager is at 14 right now. basically there would have to be all forests in hand, I think, if with Ravager at 14 in this spot.
It's not all forests in hand. It's a walking ballista.
And Sam knew the spot he was in.
Can't beat a ballista, can't beat much, so pretty quick scoop. So he's 0-3 with this Hogak deck.
Yeah, and that draw was pretty great, but there isn't a whole lot that you can do against the Hardened Scales deck when they draw sort of one copy of each of their key cards in like Mox Opal, Hardened Scales, Arcbound Ravager.
Yeah, it's true. Sam's draw base attacked for 15 on turn 3. Sorry, he put a bunch of stuff into play on turn 2, attacked for 15. Thomas was at 16, so he just took it and had the game stabilized by his third turn.
And that game was a good demonstration of why Trample on Hogak is so important. Like Sam was very close to winning, but that was purely based upon the fact that he had Trample from Hogak. Without the Trample ability from Hogak, it was been pretty trivial for Thomas to survive against an army of Bloodghast and Vengevines.
Fair.
So on Sam's side, he is electing to not bring in Leyline of the Void. That was a card that I did bring in some quantities when I played against Hardened Scales with Martyr Death Shadow. But Sam, he's constrained by the fact that he has to bring in a bunch of answers for Grafdigger's Cage, of which there are 4 copies in Thomas's deck. So once you're bringing in all of your answers for something like Grafdigger's Cage, and he's even bringing in Thoughtseize since he's on the play, you don't want to dilute your deck too much, and he doesn't really have the room for the Leyline of the Void.
Yeah, he does abandon the Alter Dementia aspect of his deck, which makes sense. That alternate angle of attack is not what he needs here. We see the Grafdigger's Cage in Thomas's hand.
Yeah, this is a pretty fine-looking draw from Sam. He's got the start where he gets to, do a bunch of mills, cast a bunch of creatures in the first couple turns, but he doesn't have critically Hogak in hand. When you're up against Grafdigger's Cage, you really want Hogak in your opening hand because you can just cast it through the cage.
Right. Yeah, no Hogak and no Cage answer. Sam crosses his fingers, plays the Stitcher Supplier. There's the Nature's Claim. There's the Assassin's Trophy.
So Sam just reduced 40% of the outs in his deck to Grafdigger's Cage with that mill.
He's got 5?
Yeah. 3 claims and 2 trophies. A hotly contested number. There's a lot of different angles you can go with between Claim, Assassin's Trophy, and Force of Vigor. They all have their various drawbacks. Trophy's the most flexible, but man, when you have a trophy, you just sit around for a while. You have to wait until turn 3 to get started with your plan, which, sounds ridiculous, but in the modern format, that is really slow.
Sounds right.
So Sam has moved into game plan number 2, Beatdowns.
Oh, the Welding Jar to defend Grafdigger's Cage.
Yeah, and this is going to be a tough one. Thomas has got Walking Ballista plus Hardened Scales, which is really good against the mediocre Beatdowns. Sam has 2 X1 attackers and a third one on the way. And brutally, the draw for the turn was Welding Jar, so it is slim pickings for Sam to try to win this game through the graveyard. I don't want to rule out Sam because he's a pretty masterful player, but he is really going uphill right now.
Yeah, no, it's been fun watching along as you guys made the comeback, but we maybe should give some credit to Mage Market. The one European entry in the Super League.
Yes.
It's 5:30 in the morning over there. Thomas is, couldn't do any commentary tonight because he's actually kind of got the flu. And yet here he is in game 7, match 7, and up against Hogak. But Mage Market looks like they may stop the comeback. They may finish off the 4-3 and get the spot in the semifinals.
Yeah, they've played well.
They have played great all night.
They're definitely they were definitely one of the favorites of the field coming into this. And as somebody who's fresh off playing in 2 Mythic Championships in Europe on jet lag and playing this modern format, yes, what you are describing is true. This is a big accomplishment, being able to play this format at 4:30 in the morning or whatever ungodly time it is there.
Yeah, I think back to the match Andreas won against the Freed from the Real deck too, and I feel like so many people that would have lost that match from Andreas' side. He's on Eldrazi-tron, and somehow he just found all these ways to interact with the combo, and he's just doing nothing to leave Ghost Quarters untapped, and it was impressive. He definitely earned that win.
Yep. So Sam finally mills a Hogak, and he's got 2 blood gas. But yeah, unfortunately, Sam isn't playing with a shatter effect that says can't be regenerated. There's kind of a weirdly large number of them in the modern format, but none of Nature's Claim Assassin's Trophy has that rider.
Is there any chance Thomas just fails to stabilize against this motley assortment of 2/1s? Like Walking Ballista is just going to clean things up at some point, right?
Because one of the things that would be nice is that, like, maybe the Welding Jar is protecting the Grafdigger's Cage, but maybe Sam could, like, use the removal on the Walking Ballista, but it's the same story. Oh, well, that was a good draw.
That was a good draw.
Yeah, Thomas could have played around this, but it's kind of ridiculous. He would have literally had to have killed his own Walking Ballista to kill 2 black creatures to prevent Hogak from getting convoked.
Hilarious. Sure.
But that's a wild play. I really can't imagine doing that.
All right. Well, here's Avenge Vine, it being turned 4 and all.
So Sam's just going to... he's going to protect Mac's Graveyard. He's just... Oh, interesting. I guess this... Yeah, I guess you get to force some action with the Ballista this way. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and Vengevine gets to come in. So I think this game is... How much time does Thomas have to dig for Arcbound Ravager? Because, like, the Ravager animation module is kind of the thing you want to set up here. You know, he's only on 3 mana.
He used the Welding Jar.
He kept the Welding Jar around. So this is an interesting line. And I think what Thomas is hoping for here is that, he gets to first kill the Vengevine, and then he gets to use Arcbound Worker as a chump blocker and potentially put the modular counters on the Ballista, and that'll give him some more angles to attack.
Sam was out of cards in hand, so at some level, he didn't need the Welding Jar to defend his Grafdigger's Cage against anything except top decks, so I like that line.
Yeah, the 4th Ancient Stirrings here is honestly a bad draw. Yeah, he's really just looking for lands, because with Ancient Stirrings, an animation module, and a worker, he's really got a lot of ways to sink his mana right now. All right, Mox Opal is, it's a mana source. It's not doing anything special because he wasn't going to hit his land drop this turn in all likelihood.
Perfectly serviceable. All right, it's worker with the animation module trigger. 14 life left to play with.
So how much does Sam just attack here and just say, I'm forcing your action? Yeah, and he says quite a bit.
Yeah.
He doesn't attack with Stitcher Supplier. Guess he recognizes that it could just get eaten by the Arcbound Worker and doesn't want to force that line to force through some damage.
Hogak hit drops Thomas to 6.
To me it looks like this is coming down to whether or not Thomas can find Ravager on the Ancient Stirrings. I believe if he does, it's going to be good enough.
Right. Thomas clearly needs something. Does he have 2 turns, or does he have to find it immediately? Feels like he has to find...
Yeah.
Well, animation module.
Now.
All right.
Man, the sweat's on watching the game from this mode. You can't see the cards that pop up from Ancient Stirrings. Well,
He's showing us a couple down there in his hand. One of them's thrown a Geth.
He isn't snapping it off.
Yeah, it's true. The longer he thinks, the more you know it was not, in fact, Ravager. It was Ravager!
Oh, brutal. Yeah, I mean, honestly, and I don't blame him considering the time of night. The Mage Market guys have been playing pretty deliberately tonight. So
sure.
I wouldn't have expected to really snap off any play in particular. But we're kind of in the same spot as before. How much work does Sam... How much can... Oh, interestingly, the Welding Jar is now gone.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind.
Sure. Yeah, artifact removal off the top would clear a cage, or...
But honestly, we're now at the point where... Oh, interesting. He starts off by firing at the supplier. Oh, does he have a kill? He actually does. Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Whoa, he's got the kill. Thomas Enevoldson, ladies and gentlemen, clears all the blockers. He gets to attack. Ravager can eat things. The Ballista gets to do the functional double strike thing where he piles all of those counters on top of the Ballista, hits for half of Sam's life total, pings in for the rest.
Yeah, and that's honestly embarrassing by me. Rule number 1 with Hardened Scales is if you have Ravager and Hardened Scales, check to see if you have lethal. And then if you think you don't, do the math again because you still probably do.
And he did. He did the math. He said he had to find Arcbound Ravager with Ancient Stirrings. He found it, and he had to kill it with the Ballista. Wow. So Mage Market, 4-3 victors, and they are through to the semifinals.
Yeah, congratulations to them. They played really well, and I'm excited to see how they do the rest of the way.
You guys played great too. This was a super fun night of Magic.
Yeah, we actually played this team twice now, and I thought both weeks were a real good time.
I mean, you played them twice this season. You also played them in the last team season, right? You, I know
Luis
that.
Did.
Well, sure. Team Luis managed to take them out single-handedly. I think that was the Team Vintage Super League, right? They kept letting him play Paradoxical Outcome, and he kept destroying them with it. Just ran the table. So I know they were very well aware of that. They saw this as kind of the rubber match because I think you guys had played previous time as well. You've played at least twice. Maybe there's a third time back there somewhere as well.
Well,
certainly two of the teams that have been around all the Team Super Leagues.
And I'm sure if you look at our matchup history, we've all played each other a bunch of times at Grand Prix and Mythic Championships. So no strangers here in this one.
Yeah, that's a piece of vengeance I know those guys are happy to have. Andreas felt good. He won the individual Vintage Super League most recently, so he felt like got a little bit of that off of his shoulder, but still some chip left. Maybe not after tonight.
Well, thanks for having us this season, Randy. It was a good time. Sorry we can't play anymore.
It was definitely a good time. I wanted to see what the next pages of Matt's notebook were if you guys could have made the semifinals. Like, was there still like another chapter coming of craziness?
Yeah. Fecundity Goblins is on the chopping block currently. We haven't quite gotten that one into working shape yet.
Well, we'll have to have another, modern mythic or something. Let you guys get back in the get those decks dusted off. It was really interesting actually to hear, here was a deck we almost had for the Pro Tour, but Hogak was too good. Yeah. Here was another deck we almost had for the Pro Tour. Listening over the course of the night as you guys sort of went through what almost made the cut but didn't and why it didn't was that was just a sweet night of Magic. I mean, the games were good, the decks were sweet. I mean, worthy victors in the end. Either team would have been a good semifinalist.
Yeah, honestly, we have to be kind of picky with our time when we're preparing for these modern tournaments because, like you said, the well of ideas is not shallow. So, and Sam and I have full-time jobs. Matt has his MPL and streaming obligations. We only get so much time to test, and sometimes we spend it on great things like KCI, and sometimes we spend it on Fecundity Goblins.
Well, look, it's been great having you this season. I'm sure that next team Super League of whatever flavor. I'm sure we'll. I'll be sending along another email, see if we can get you guys back in the arena once again.
Sounds good, Randy.
That is gonna do it for tonight. We have our top 4 now. So come back next week. Mage Market rolls straight into a semifinal matchup against the Stream Team. That is going to happen 1 week from tonight. And then the Brothers Who Bash and Pamplemousse. Yes, that is the 2-0s from the regular season paired against each other. But you know what? They were both busy on the 13th, so this was the only way I could make the pairings work. They will be battling on the 20th, and then the finals on the 27th. So Mage Market against the Stream Team. That'll be our battle next week. Hope we will see all of you guys here then. Thanks for hanging out with us. Cheers.